So friends like video, what if Naruto revives Team 7 special movie? Well then, let's begin our introductions. Began Kakashi, surveying his 3 potential pupils. We shall tell each other of our likes, dislikes, and dreams for the future to get to know each other better. I'll start first. My name is Hada Kakashi, my likes are, my dislikes are, I have no dreams. Sakura sweat dropped. What kind of introduction was that? She got the impression that this guy really didn't take them seriously. Hell, he hadn't even arrived on time. He pointed at her and informed her it was her turn. Her no Sakura. She exclaimed brightly, my likes are. Her gaze trailed over to Sasuke and she began giggling, my dreams for the future. She repeated what she did before, she then looked over at Naruto and scowled. I hate Ino pig, annoying people, and Naruto baka. Naruto scowled at that, but his face returned to the blank stare he had maintained previously. It seemed the kid was off in his own little world. Kakashi then motioned for Sasuke to go. My name is Uchiha Sasuke, my likes are training and learning my clan jutsu, my dislikes are idiots and fangirls, my dream more like an ambition is to kill a certain man and revive my clan. Sakura gazed at him with hearts in her eyes, he was so cool. Last is you, blonde. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, my likes are learning new jutsu, training, and eating ramen, my dislikes are people who are blindly prejudiced, and my dreams, well, I don't have any yet. Kakashi raised his eyebrow at the demure boy, no dreams. Usually kids hollered arrogantly about how they would become tons of stuff at this age. Naruto shrugged at the look he was given by his sensei. What? I'm just 12, I've got plenty of time to think about what I want to do. Right, well, better conclude this meeting. Kakashi informed them of the survival test and warned them not to eat breakfast. The next day at 10 in the morning found the 3 waiting grumpily for their sensei who was 3 hours late. Naruto had brought a bento box with him that had already been half finished and finished the rest of it during the wait for their sensei. The other 2 wouldn't know it, but Naruto was the most irritated with their sensei. Why had the man demanded they come at 7 in the morning if he wasn't going to show for another 3 hours? All 3 of them honestly had better things to do than wait around for a no-show for 3 hours, if not for the fact that their sensei was essentially their superior officer and they were bound to obey the word of their teacher ever since proudly taking their headbands. They would left, did their sensei even take his duties seriously? Yo. Came Kakashi's voice as he sunshined in front of the 3 angry students, his patented eye smile on his face as he waved with his right hand, sorry for being late, I got lost on the road to life. You're late. Shouted Sakura, angry at having waited for their tardy sensei for 3 hours. Sasuke made an angry noise as well. Naruto decided to let his anger show, forget being in trouble. So far this man was pushing the limits of his respect for his teacher. He was so used to being punctual that this change was unacceptable for him. Is this going to be the norm every day, you being late for 3 hours? Snarled Naruto. This was the second time this man had done this, he had been 3 hours late to pick them up from their class. Because I swear, after I pass this test of yours, I'll be sure to train under you and learn everything you know, so I can become strong enough to beat your ass for all the times you will be tardy. Kakashi sweat dropped as he noticed Sakura and Sasuke nod in agreement, their angry features mirroring Naruto's own. Well thought Kakashi, observing this temporary change in dynamics, at least they're getting closer to work as a team, though it's better if they don't work together for the sole purpose of beating the crap out of me in the future. Kakashi then had a devious thought, perhaps he could get some fun out of this exercise, at the expense of his little regrets. Oh yes, this would be good. What's the matter Naruto? Began Kakashi casually. Naruto looked ready to yell something else, upset about not being able to spend more time with your little girlfriend. Naruto jumped at that, his eyes widened in shock as his mouth hung agape. Sakura, and even Sasuke turned to Naruto in surprise. Naruto, the dead last, had a girlfriend. They both wondered if this was some trick by Kakashi, but the look of shock on Naruto's face said otherwise. Sakura shook her head in disbelief. Oh please, what girl would she began before she was cut off. How did when did Naruto scrunched up his face in anger. Fuck. I can't let this happen. I don't have a girlfriend. He had said it calmly enough, but the fact his words had been jumbled in the beginning proved to be his downfall. He gazed at his teammates to find their looks of disbelief and turned to his teacher to find the man grinning cheekily. Naruto scowled at him. That's not what I saw this morning when I spied your apartment, said Kakashi, grinning through his mask. I see she was nice enough to make a meal for you this morning, which you have clearly eaten. Nice to see that one of my students liked disobeying my instructions. Naruto snorted and folded his arms in defiance. If you want me to start listening to you, then you should make it here at a more prudent time. He did not feel the least bit sorry for what he did, not anymore. He may have felt guilty when she brought him a meal and asked to eat with him in his apartment, but now he was kicking himself for being hesitant to eat it and for rushing through it quickly after telling her he had to be at training ground 7 at exactly 7 this morning. Why were you spying on me? Naruto asked, changing the subject, gazing at Kakashi suspiciously. You misunderstand, said Kakashi as he shrugged, I spied on all three of you this morning. What? Shouted Sakura, horrified. Sasuke was now gazing at Kakashi with suspicion as well. Why, you pervert? Sakura made sure to highlight that point by pointing her finger at Kakashi rudely. Kakashi sighed in exasperation in response. I was making sure all three of you got here on time, clarified Kakashi. Honestly, he didn't want his new student spreading false rumors around because they got the wrong impression of him. Bullshit, said Sasuke simply, deciding to join the banter. Why weren't you here at 7am, then? And don't give us one of those stupid lies of yours. They all looked at him angrily. Kakashi put his face in one of his gloved palms and began rubbing the bridge of his nose in frustration. Tsurutobi-sama was right, he really shouldn't be late when training his new students. Dealing with grumpy children in the morning was a nerve-wracking task, and making them even more annoyed by making them wait would make convincing them to obey his instructions all the harder. Hell, his peers looked down at him for his chronic tardiness. No one liked it. If you must know, said Kakashi, seeing that all pairs of eyes were boring at him for a good response, I was hoping you three would make conversation and see fit to get to know each other more. You're a team now, you must all understand the importance of teamwork to do good in the shinobi military force. They all frowned, none of them knew how to respond to that. Sakura began thinking that she could use this as an excuse to try and get Sasuke to open up to her. Sasuke scoffed at that notion and still desired to be a one-man show. Naruto didn't really know what to think of that response. He eventually concluded that Kakashi was just making more excuses up for being late. Kakashi then went on to explain the bell test and that they would begin immediately. Sasuke and Sakura immediately went into hiding. Kakashi took out his porn and seemed to begin reading. Usually people hide during this part of the test and think up strategies to get one of the bells. Naruto shrugged in response. No point in hiding from a jounin, replied Naruto, gazing at Kakashi intently. It seemed his anger at waiting had been mollified after his outburst, especially not with your tracking abilities. Kakashi actually looked up from his porn and raised an eyebrow at that. Had Naruto done research on him? Perhaps this kid was craftier than at first glance. The orange jumpsuit really made it hard to take this kid seriously. Besides, began Naruto before standing on a stiff position and formally bowing, he stood back up. Kakashi's eyebrows rose even further in confusion. I wanted to thank you for looking out for me as a kid after they left, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi stared at Naruto in surprise. If not for his mask he would have been gaping. How had he known? Naruto seemed to recognize this. I recognized your chakra signature from one of those times when you helped me, clarified Naruto, answering the unasked question. I actually recognized it when you walked into the classroom yesterday, and yes, when you were at my apartment too. It's why I was so tense around her earlier this morning. I thought you were coming to pick me up personally. That explains the anger, thought Kakashi. He shouldn't have been surprised when he thought more about it. Naruto was in Uzumaki. Every single one of them excelled at chakra detection. Has obviously been honing his skills, poor kid. Naruto made a fighting stance. Kakashi continued to read his book. Playing mind games on his opponent would cause them to make slip-ups more often than not, instead of attacking. As Kakashi expected, Naruto dashed off into the forest towards Sakura and Sasuke. Kakashi subtly looked over that direction and smiled beneath his mask. Perhaps training these brats won't be so bad after all. Naruto convinced Sasuke and Sakura to help get the bells per the agreement that both of them would get one. Sasuke and Sakura were curious as to why Naruto would decide to just give up so easily, but chalked it up for their own reasons. Sasuke, frankly, didn't care. Sakura assumed it was because he lacked dreams like her and Sasuke. Kakashi had been surprised by the immediate teamwork of the three. Sasuke had let loose his log trap which Kakashi dodged only to face an army of Naruto's shadow clones and Sakura's kunai barrage. Sasuke soon joined them and attacked Kakashi and was able to nab the two bells before tossing one to Sakura. Kakashi smiled after it was over. Congratulations. Bellowed Kakashi. Sakura shouted a rather girly victory cry as Sasuke just smirked. Naruto offered a smile. Naruto, you passed the test. This prompted Sasuke to frown, Naruto to chuckle, and Sakura to sputter. What but we Sakura was confused, she furrowed her brow trying to think of why this was happening. I don't understand. Their sensei smiled widely through his mask, he gestured to Naruto and asked him to explain. The point of the test wasn't the bells, said Naruto, causing both his teammates' frowns to deepen. It was teamwork, we were supposed to work as a team, the bells were just a trick to deceive us. The ninja's greatest art is deception, muttered Sakura, still frowning. But doesn't that mean that me and Sasuke passed too? Kakashi shook his head. You worked as a team, but only to gain something out of your own selfishness, responded Kakashi, in a light tone of disappointment. You didn't understand the true purpose of this test, so technically only Naruto passes. Sasuke scowled as Sakura looked disappointed. But as Kakashi said this, they both jerked to attention, seeing how you were so willing to work together so quickly, I'll pass you. They both looked relieved at that. Kakashi then explained to all three of them the importance of teamwork and the headstone marking the death of everyone who gave their lives to the village. Perhaps this team would do well. Regardless, Kakashi decided to have them do D-rank missions to build more teamwork, as obviously a lot more was needed. After they left the field to their own separate homes, a Jinjutsu unveiled itself and a figure stepped out. Looks like you passed and finally joined the official shinobi ranks, the figure muttered to herself, her red tresses flowing with the wind as she looked at the spot where Squad 7 had just left from. It had been so long since then, 6 years had flown by, the weight of sadness she buried deep inside of her resurfaced. I wish I could be there for you, someday I will be. It'll break out of this cage and then it'll be there for you. No matter what. D-rank missions were such a hassle, Team 7 felt more like they were doing chores than real ninja missions. Sasuke was especially annoyed, unlike the other two, these missions really didn't gain him anything. Sakura and Naruto got extra money to spend or pay their bills with, but Sasuke. He had literally inherited everything from the Uchiha district, it was all his. It wouldn't be exaggerating to state he was one of the wealthiest people in all of Konoha, he didn't need any of the money. Even Sakura and Naruto detested these missions, they honestly were a paltry amount, and C-rank missions would garner them both a higher paycheck. Sakura could then shop for dresses and makeup she could purchase to impress Sasuke, while Naruto could buy better shinobi equipment for himself and perhaps even jutsu scrolls. After nearly a month of non-stop D-rank missions, the entire team of students got fed up with them and agreed to request for a higher mission the very next day. Naruto and Sasuke had both been training since their academy days to show off their skills as shinobi, they were both eager to prove themselves. Team 7 entered the Hokage Tower and looked to see Yami no Ruka and their Hokage shifting through the mission scrolls. Let's see, began Sarutobi, looking at the various mission scrolls. We have capturing Tora the cat again, painting a fence at the northern walls, or Okage-sama, interrupted Sasuke, gaining the attention of the three adults in the room. Me and my teammates have been discussing it for a bit of time now and we would like a higher rank mission. Naruto and Sakura nodded their heads in affirmative as Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Why hadn't they brought this up with him? Honestly, it was nice to see they were working together, but they really should ran this by him first. The Sandaime raised an eyebrow as he looked between the team and their Jounin sensei, whose face clearly had mild surprise written on it. It seems the team had come together with this request without notifying their sensei. Before he could respond, Iruka interrupted. Akaze. These scrolls are given to you by Hokage-sama, and if he thinks you aren't ready for a higher rank mission, then Yao'll take the missions he does assign with dignity and honor befitting shinobi of your status. Iruka-sensei, we understand that, but began Naruto. He thought over what he wanted to say carefully. We've been doing D-rank missions for almost a month now, and we all would like to prove ourselves. I think we all more than deserve a chance. Sarutobi puffed out his tobacco from his pipe as he surveyed the three. He sighed to himself as he lay back on his chair when he looked at Naruto and Sasuke, both of them children that had continually failed in many ways throughout the years. Both had to grow up alone because had failed to act at the right time and exert his authority as the Hokage of his village. He had never been able to forgive himself for not providing enough for either of his charges. He had never forgiven the council for not allowing him to provide extra care for either child when they were growing up. Their prejudice had never changed in the past 12 years regarding both of them. They had overruled his every decision regarding the caretaking of the two. Perhaps some time away from the village would be good for them. He knew they both had the thirst to prove themselves to the village due to their own traumas growing up. Very well, I actually have just the mission for you. Iruka looked in surprise at the Hokage as he chucked the mission scroll at Kakashi. Come in, Tazuna. The mildly drunk man came into the Hokage office. These are the brats who are supposed to protect me, commented Tazuna rudely, peering at the genin assigned for his protection. They don't look like much, especially that short blonde kid. Tazuna emphasized his point by rudely pointing at Naruto. Naruto merely scowled and folded his arms in response. Sakura and Sasuke mirrored his visage, having been insulted as well. Sarutobi raised an eyebrow. Now Tazuna-san, I understand that you're a visitor here and aren't familiar with our customs, said Sarutobi, puffing out some tobacco from his pipe, but refrain from insulting my shinobi. It was me who gave them the mission, and I will not tolerate you insulting them or the trust I've placed in them to complete this mission. Team 7 proceeded to smirk at Tazuna. All three of them felt a bit of pride at their Hokage's words as well. All three decided then to do their best in completing this mission for their Hokage. Sputtered Tazuna. He tried shaking the drunkenness from his system. He felt every bit as stupid as he looked in front of everyone in the room now. His village was in desperate need of help, and it seemed he had opened his big mouth where it really wasn't wanted, as sorry. Sarutobi merely nodded in response as Kakashi informed their team to get ready tomorrow at 10 am to leave the village and to get the necessary supplies. They trekked outside the gates of Konoha sedately toward the direction of the land of waves. Kakashi had his porno in front of him. Sasuke simply walked quietly in his own little world. Naruto decided to enjoy the scenery around them, as he never had been outside the village before, and Sakura was thinking over how to impress Sasuke on this mission. Tazuna was worried. He had hoped that by calling them brats yesterday, he got more professional and competent shinobi to help him as a guide. He'd feel immensely guilty if even one of these kids ended up dead because he was too poor to pay for a higher ranked mission. As they were walking, they passed by a water puddle along the path. Naruto had sensed the 2 chakra signatures of foreign shinobi before even passing by the puddle. He had glanced at Kakashi to find that his face hadn't left the porn. Naruto knew for a fact that Kakashi had great tracking abilities and concluded that he was simply creating a false sense of security for the enemy shinobi. The subtlety took out a kunai from his pouch and was ready to strike at a moment's notice. He was not disappointed. The 2 enemy ninja erupted from their hiding place and cut down Kakashi with their chains. Sakura screamed in horror, Sasuke tensed, Tazuna looked horrified, and Naruto struck. He quickly threw the kunai right at the heart of one of the enemies, the shinobi, dislodging the chain from the gauntlet so that he could strike next, was caught by surprise and wasn't able to avoid the attack. The kunai pierced his heart as blood seeped down from the wound. He fell over dead. "Brother!" shouted the other one in surprise, looking at his dead brother in horrified shock. He glared at Naruto and was ready to attack him. Forgetting the mission to kill the bridge builder, he ran at Naruto in a blind fit of rage. Naruto was stunned. He hadn't expected his precise throw to actually kill his opponent. He was too shocked to prepare himself for the other member of the Demon Brothers' attack, however. "Pain. Bikakyu no Jutsu," shouted Sasuke, releasing his great fireball technique on the unsuspecting ninja. The other demon brother's gaze turned to Sasuke as his eyes widened in shock. He was too slow to avoid the giant fireball and screamed in horror as he was burned by the attack. His mangled and burned body hit a tree with heavy force as died from his injuries. Naruto and Sasuke both stared in stunned shock. Kakashi reappeared and observed the damage with a calm air. "Sensei!" shouted Sakura happily, forgetting the dead bodies for a moment. "You're alive. But how?" "It was a substitution, Sakura," replied Kakashi, not even turning away from the 2 corpses. He turned back to his team and fixed the other 2 of his charges with a look. "Good work on defending yourselves. Considering the circumstances, you both performed amiably." Naruto just looked down at the floor as Sasuke merely gave a frown. "Sensei, I didn't expect that kunai to kill him," said Naruto. He couldn't look up. He didn't want to see the dead bodies. "I'm sorry Kakashi-sensei. I was just trying to defend myself, but..." Was he a monster now like the villagers said? He knew shinobi killed, but he hadn't expected to kill so early and on what was just supposed to be a C-rank escort mission. Began Sasuke before shaking his head. He felt the same as Naruto. He knew it was an eventuality, but to think it had come so early. "I was trying to show up Naruto because he was the first ready to defend us. I didn't think my jutsu would kill the guy." "Don't apologize," said Kakashi, taking out a kunai and drawing blood from his fingers. "They were aiming to kill us. You both did the right thing in defending yourselves." He summoned a few of his dogs and asked them to quietly dispose of the bodies. He turned his attention to Tazuna and glared. Tazuna began spilling the beans. "You idiot," barked Kakashi, clearly displeased. Tazuna flinched back reflexively. "What you've done is jeopardize my student's safety. If it hadn't been for my students' quick thinking, they could have been killed. If we continue on this path, then we're sure to face even stronger shinobi. More likely than not, they'll be at my skill level, and I cannot risk my team getting hurt. We're heading back to the village." "Kakashi-sensei," interrupted Naruto. Kakashi turned his attention to his student. "I know it'll be even riskier, but me and Sasuke killed those attackers easily enough. I'd like to continue with the mission. We shouldn't just leave this man with nothing when he clearly needs help." Sasuke slowly nodded in agreement. Sakura, seeing this, decided to nod in agreement too. She had reservations about killing and had been disgusted with the dead bodies she had just seen, but she needed to get used to it. It was a kill or be killed world in the life of a shinobi. She had known this, and it had only just sunk in how dangerous this lifestyle would be. Kakashi folded his arms as he looked at all 3 of them. He shook his head in exasperation. Leave it to Naruto to not want to abandon someone in their time of need. Fine, however, the mission has now turned into an A-rank mission, therefore, you 3 are to follow my instructions at all times, to the letter, is that clear? They nodded their affirmatives. Tazuna looked extremely thankful as he started thanking them all for their kindness. Kakashi grunted and had them all keep pace. They made camp at night with changes in the night watch. The next day, they met with Tazuna's helper who helped guide them across the river to Kurigakura and in the direction of the land of waves. As they got closer to the mainland, they found the mist was starting to thicken around them. "Someone's here," a jounin from what I'm sensing, spoke Naruto, becoming rigid immediately. "The enemy's watching us." "Baka. How would you know?" shouted Sakura snootily, glaring at Naruto, "Don't make us on edge for no reason." "Sakura, shut up," responded Sasuke, surprising Sakura. He looked around as well, but was frustrated that he couldn't see anything beyond the mist. Naruto was the first besides Sensei to know that those other two shinobi were going to attack us. He clearly has a better range of sensing chakra than we do. Kakashi snapped his book close and put it away. Yes, he knew for a fact that Naruto's sensing ability could be trusted. Advanced chakra sensing was a hereditary trait that all Uzumaki took advantage of. The only thing better would be the Byakugan or advanced variations of the Sharingan, yet even then, only the Byakugan could sense chakra at long distances like the Uzumaki ability. "Trust Naruto's senses, Sakura," was all Kakashi said on the matter. Sakura looked in surprised at her sensei's words, but made no comment. She chose to scowl at Naruto as if it was his fault. He was about to say more when a sudden whizzing noise was heard. "Get down!" shouted both Kakashi and Naruto. They all immediately hit the floor as a large broadsword flew by right where their heads would have been. It impaled on a nearby tree as a mist ninja jumped on top of it. Well, this is a surprise," said Zabuza, surveying the team of genin. "I was surprised to see the bridge builder alive, but now I see that the demon brothers stood no chance against copycat ninja Kakashi, the man who copied 1000 jutsu and a pupil of the late Yondaime Hokage." "Momochi Zabuza," spoke Naruto, surprising his teammates and Zabuza himself, a rank missing nin, wanted for the attempted assassination of the Sandaime Mizukage and one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. If Zabuza had eyebrows, he would have raised them. He got off of Kubikurabunch and pulled it out of the tree it was embedded in. He stared at Naruto intently. "Seems someone has done their homework," said Zabuza, with a nod of approval. "How do you know so much about me and my accomplishments, kid?" "I read the bingo book quite often, it's a hobby of mine," replied Naruto, shrugging. Zabuza looked at him in disbelief. Even if that was true, how could he have memorized so much detail about Zabuza from the thousands, if not millions, recorded in the bingo book? "My family," Naruto said that word with a hint of bitterness in his tone, "has been looking to recruit any and all former mist ninja or refugees to their clan, specifically those with bloodlines. The clan leader has been looking to revive all the bloodlines lost in that abominable purge by the Sandaime Mizukage." "Yes, I heard of that," replied Zabuza, looking at Naruto intently. "A brat with a bloodline could be trouble. The Uzumaki clan, headed by Uzumaki Kushina, unfortunately am not interested in joining up and becoming shinobi to another hidden village. My goal's to gain enough funds and military support to reclaim the lost glory of Kurigakura." "Uzumaki clan?" said Sakura in surprise, looking at Naruto before scowling. "I thought you were an orphan and lived alone. You never told us you had a clan, Naruto." "Naruto?" said Zabuza in a surprised tone, "the lost heir of the Uzumaki clan. You're him? I heard you were dead. You've never been seen in any formal meetings made by the Uzumaki clan with their dealings with Kurigakura. Word has it that some prodigy child is going to inherit the title of clan leader after Uzumaki Kushina retires." "Enough!" shouted Kakashi, knowing Naruto didn't want anyone prying into his private life. "Are we here to talk or are we here to fight?" And so their battle began. It was an amazing fight to behold. Zabuza and Kakashi were equally matched, but unfortunately a miscalculation on Kakashi's part caused him to be trapped inside Zabuza's water prison jutsu. "Run," advised Kakashi. Inwardly he was kicking himself for having gone on this mission at all. His water techniques only have a close proximity range. If you run away, then he shouldn't be able to reach you. "Forget about me." Naruto shook his head. "No way, Kakashi-sensei," replied Naruto. "We're not leaving you, we're a team and we stick together, we're not going to just abandon you. Besides, Zabuza seems to have an accomplice hiding not far from here in the trees. If we leave, we'll only be falling for his trap." Kakashi mentally kicked himself once again. What had he done? His students were in danger and it was all his fault. How could he have been so stupid and careless? "Quite arrogant of you, don't you think?" spoke Zabuza, gaining Naruto's attention. Sasuke drew out a kunai and tensed. Sakura was clearly scared shitless at the current predicament. Naruto stared stonily at Zabuza. "There is no way you can beat me in battle. Your sensei has already failed and is trapped. You kids should just surrender." "We don't have to beat you," said Naruto bluntly. "We just have to free sensei. You can't fight us effectively with one hand needed to keep that prison secure. You're handicapped." Zabuza laughed openly at that. This kid certainly had balls. "Listen brat, I don't know what your clan has told you, but there is no way you're strong enough to take on a Jounin," laughed Zabuza. Naruto scowled, but not for the reasons Zabuza assumed. "You three are quite pathetic for shinobi. At your age, I had killed my entire graduating class. That was the test we of the mist had to go through to become full-fledged genin. I bet you kiddies haven't even tasted blood yet." Sasuke snorted. "We killed the demon brothers," said Sasuke bluntly, surprising Zabuza. "Naruto killed the first one with a kunai, and the second one died from the injuries of my jutsu, so yeah, I think we're plenty ready by your standards." "A mere accident on both accounts," snorted Zabuza, shaking his head, "none of you brats fight with the intent to kill." "I did," replied Naruto. Zabuza snorted yet again, false bravado. Sakura was sickly from hearing all the talk about killing, and Sasuke looked at Naruto in confusion. "I killed a group of villagers at the age of 6 when they tried to attack me. I knew what I did would lead to their deaths, and I did it knowing I would become a monster." Sakura looked horrified, her teammate was a murderer. She needed to be careful around him. Sasuke looked a bit intimidated by what Naruto had just said. "Show me what you can do then, kid," said Zabuza, summoning a water clone and ordering it to attack Naruto. He wanted to see just what this brat was capable of. Naruto took out a kunai and charged at the water clone. The water clone struck downward with a replica Kubikurabmj. Naruto shifted to the left and struck fast. He sliced the neck of the clone and destroyed it in one hit. Zabuza looked on in surprise yet again. He had hoped to divulge what bloodline this kid had with that clone, but that attack hadn't used any special abilities. It was pure skill. He whistled in approval. Although the water clone only has 10% of the user's strength and skill, that should been enough to knock any genin flat on their ass. Zabuza then summoned 3 water clones and had them attack all 3 members of Team 7. Naruto cut down the one running towards him, the other 2 jumped high into the air with their swords poised to kill Sakura and Sasuke. Sasuke quickly formed the seals necessary and unleashed his trademark fireball jutsu at the oncoming clones. It destroyed them instantly. Sasuke smirked, subconsciously keeping a record. He now tied with Naruto on the number of clones killed. Zabuza decided it was time to end this charade. He summoned the water dragon without seals. Team 7 and Tazuna stared in abject horror as the water dragon came barreling towards them. Naruto quickly snapped into attention. "Suiton. Surikten no Jutsu," shouted Naruto as he ran through the seals. He summoned a water dragon from their side of the large pond and sent it colliding with Zabuza's. Zabuza was surprised yet again. He kicked himself for underestimating this Uzumaki so much. The water dispersed. Zabuza looked pissed. He was tired of playing around, and he still didn't know what sort of bloodline this kid had. It could be anything from Kiri. He racked his brain thinking of what to do next. Sasuke took out a Fuma shuriken. He and Naruto nodded at one another, appearing to have a silent conversation between themselves, and then Naruto summoned another water dragon and sent it barreling at Zabuza. Zabuza summoned another water dragon and had it collide with Naruto's. He growled in anger. The first water dragon should spent up a normal genin's chakra reserves and then some, but it appeared that this kid was definitely not normal. Perhaps his bloodline was endurance related. Zabuza's eyes widened as he noticed a Fuma shuriken zip past the collision of the 2 dragons, and towards him, the water dragon had been a distraction. Zabuza expertly unsheathed Kubikurabmj and slammed it onto the Fuma shuriken, sending it flying towards his left as it collided with some trees in the forest area. "Nice try, but there is no way Yaour." He was cut off from finishing his sentence as Naruto got fed up and summoned 2 water dragons as Sasuke spewed out a much larger than normal grand fireball and sent it sailing towards Zabuza. "Fuck," shouted Zabuza, quickly letting go of Kakashi's water prison and diving into the water to avoid those 3 devastating jutsus. Kakashi followed suit. They both reappeared from the water and both instinctively glared at Team 7. Tazuna was gaping openly at how powerful the 2 male members of the genin team were. Sakura looked rather surprised, but then cheered as she realized Kakashi-sensei was free. Naruto had the humbleness to look sheepish as Sasuke just did his patented smirk. The battle between Kakashi and Zabuza recommenced. By the end of it, Zabuza was hit by a stray senbon and taken out. The squad tensed as a boy with a hunter nin mask jumped out. He thanked them for fighting Zabuza before informing them he would take the body and dispose of it properly. As the hunter nin reached for the body, Naruto threw a lightning-fast kunai at the shinobi who blocked the attack easily with senbon. "Naruto baka. What are you doing?" shouted Sakura as Kakashi and Sasuke looked at Naruto in confusion. Tazuna just looked afraid of all of them. "This hunter nin is a fake," snarled Naruto. Kakashi's eyes widened in realization. Sakura looked ready to yell some more as Sasuke still looked confused. Sasuke turned to gaze at the hunter nin. This guy cold killed Zabuza at any moment when he had sensei trapped. Furthermore, Yaour's supposed to dispose of the body immediately so that there isn't some sort of trap the missing nin sets to activate upon death. It's happened plenty of times to be turned into a basic rule for hunting down missing nin after killing them. The hunter nin quickly grabbed Zabuza and threw down a smoke bomb, causing them to look away. Once the haze cleared up, the hunter nin and Zabuza were gone. Kakashi covered his Sharingan with his headband before turning to his team. "There's nothing further we can do at the moment about them," spoke Kakashi, gaining the attention of his squad. "We must reach Tazuna's house as soon as possible. Naruto, Yaour in charge, take the lead and be sure to use your abilities to avoid any further enemy shinobi if possible." With that, Kakashi collapsed from chakra exhaustion. After reaching Tazuna's house and being introduced to his family, Squad 7 agreed to wait it out until Kakashi would wake up from his exhaustion. Naruto kept guard of the house by sending a massive amount of shadow clones around the forest area and nearby the house. They were instructed to be on guard at all times. Sasuke, initially jealous of Naruto being made leader, couldn't help but respect his comrade's plan in keeping the house safe and grudgingly agreed with Kakashi's assessment in making Naruto in charge. His chakra sensing ability was dead useful in a situation like this, and Sasuke himself had yet to unlock the power of his Sharingan. Sakura kept away from Naruto whenever she could. She felt hesitant to listen to his instructions regarding what to do but grudgingly followed along since she didn't see any alternatives. Tazuna was just thankful his home hadn't been attacked. He had been worried about his family since setting out to gain foreign shinobi aid. He was grateful that Naruto provided an army of clones to both keep guard and help with the bridge building whenever he went out to work on the bridge with his colleges. "Tell me something," said Naruto one day during dinner with Tazuna's family. "Why didn't you just hire Kirin in for help in building the bridge? Surely that would have been easier." Tazuna sighed. Tsunami shook her head in despair. "Kurigakura is currently in a civil war," explained Tazuna. "There aren't any missions being dispensed to any part of the country. Gato has been paying the resistance side to keep out of his monopoly in this region. The Mizukage's side never really cared for the problems on various settlements outside of the mainland, and the Land of Waves was no exception." "That's terrible," said Sakura, a cage that didn't care for their countrymen. "Why would the Mizukage not care for his own countrymen?" Sasuke and Naruto both frowned and gazed questioningly at Tazuna. He simply shrugged. "Our Mizukage is, quite frankly, insane," said Tazuna bluntly. "If not for the civil war, had continuing his bloodline purge and committing genocide on our people. Has been doing it for more than 20 years now, and the civil war in Kiri has been going on for almost a year now." Sakura looked disgusted. That entire situation sounded abhorrent to her. This Mizukage was clearly a monster. Her two teammates shared similar looks. A few days later Kakashi awoke, after congratulating Naruto on his fantastic performance as leader of the squad, especially under the circumstances. He ordered his team to follow him to the forest for some training. Despite not having fully recovered, he needed to train his team to be better prepared for their next inevitable encounter with the demon of the hidden mist. "Alright, we know that Zabuza and his friend will be back and we need to be prepared for it," spoke Kakashi as he threw down 3 kunai at the feet of his students. He began his lecture on tree walking and set them to the task of trying to climb their respective trees. He watched from his own tree perch to see their progress. Sakura went first and had managed to get to the top. Kakashi nodded in approval. "Good job, Sakura," said Kakashi. Sakura smiled brightly at the praise. "However, it seems you're able to climb the tree easily due to lack of much chakra within your system. Continue the exercise. This way, you'll build and grow your chakra reserves to become even stronger. I want you to do laps up and down the tree for the whole day." Sakura noticeably deflated at that but did as ordered. To Kakashi's complete surprise, Naruto walked up to his tree without difficulty and stood upside down on a large branch around the same comparative height as his and Sakura's branches. "I've done this before," Kakashi concluded. Naruto nodded in acknowledgement to the sort of question. "Well then, I suppose we can start you on the next exercise." Naruto shook his head in response. Kakashi frowned within his mask. "It couldn't be. I've mastered that exercise too, Kakashi-sensei," answered Naruto to Kakashi's unasked question. "I made sure to because of my rather large chakra reserves while growing up. It's what made me be able to perform the water dragon jutsu as quickly as I did." "What other jutsus do you know?" Kakashi asked curiously. He figured Naruto had studied some of the Uzumaki clan's water jutsus to have been able to perform them. "The water clone, though it's useless ever since I learned my shadow clone jutsu," said Naruto, ticking off the jutsu he knew. "Water dragon is the only other one besides those two. I haven't mastered much else since the D-rank missions took up so much of our time during the day." Kakashi nodded. It seemed his students would improve more by cutting back on the D-rank missions. The two noticed Sasuke furiously trying to reach the same height as Naruto and Sakura, but putting too much chakra into his feet and making large holes every time he seemed to make some progress. Kakashi quickly walked down his tree and calmed Sasuke down, instructing him on how to perform the tree walking exercise correctly. Naruto followed him down soon after. "Naruto, since there is nothing further I can teach you as far as chakra exercises at this point, and time," began Kakashi, before taking out a piece of blank paper and handing it to Naruto. "This is a chakra paper. It senses what element of chakra best suits you. Although I have a pretty good notion of what your elemental affinity is, I'd like you to put a little chakra into it to make sure we know what your element is." Naruto nodded and channeled some of his chakra into the piece of paper. Sasuke looked on jealously as Sakura was exerting herself to do as many laps as possible up and down the tree. The paper stayed blank. Kakashi raised an eyebrow in confusion. Naruto's face scrunched up in confusion. Sasuke hid his smirk as he started the tree climbing again. Naruto channeled more chakra into the paper. Again, nothing occurred. Naruto channeled significantly more chakra into the paper the third time, yet nothing happened. Naruto frowned and looked down at the grass in disappointment. Kakashi was truly baffled by this. Every single living thing that used chakra had a composition that allowed them to favor a certain element and make those jutsus easier for them. Kakashi had assumed the paper would get wet, and then he could instruct Naruto into learning some water jutsu, or if it was a different element, then a different elemental jutsu. There had never been a case in recorded shinobi history in which a shinobi had no element. Kakashi sighed in a tone of resignation. He took the paper from Naruto, took out a pen from one of his pouches, and started writing on it. "Here," said Kakashi, handing Naruto the piece of paper, "I've written instructions on how to perform the Shunshin no Jutsu. Nearly every shinobi alive desires to learn this technique, since it makes moving around a lot faster, either for practical or leisurely purposes. It's a relatively easy C-rank jutsu to learn. Study the theory and instructions I've written down, and you should be able to perform it within the month." Naruto smiled and nodded in appreciation. Kakashi lightly ruffled his hair before using his crutches to walk back to Tezuna's house for a good meal. He hadn't eaten in nearly a week after all. Naruto sat down by the tree he had been assigned to and started reading the theory and correct seals needed to perform the jutsu. He hoped to be proficient enough one day so that he could perform the body flicker without the need of hand seals. As he was reading it, Sasuke had overexerted the amount of chakra necessary to climb the tree yet again and fell down rather ungracefully, causing Naruto to turn his attention to him. Sasuke slumped on a tree, wisely deciding to take a break. Despite the hurt pride he now endured, Sakura, seeing her crush take a break, decided to do so as well. She was very tired from the chakra strain of running up and down the tree. She cold faulted her sensei for telling her to build her reserves, considering the danger they had faced with Zabuza, but grumbled inside her mind all the same. "Better watch out, Uzumaki," growled Sasuke, looking at Naruto in jealousy. "Once I unlock my Sharingan, I'll just copy that technique from you and learn it easily." Naruto shrugged in response. "Okay, feel free." That was not the reaction that Sasuke was expecting. He shot Naruto a confused look. Naruto looked up from his parchment and decided to clarify. "We're shinobi and more importantly, we're a team," began Naruto, explaining his reasoning. "It's a dangerous world we live in. If there's a chance your life is saved somehow by using one of the techniques you copied from me, then I won't complain." Sasuke was stunned. Sakura looked up in surprise too, perhaps she had incorrectly judged him. Naruto didn't seem like the murdering type, yet he had admitted to killing civilians when he was 6. "What was that talk about the Uzumaki clan that the Mist Nin mentioned?" asked Sasuke. He had to admit that he was curious. Why did Naruto live alone if he had a clan? Come to think of it, the Uzumakas had been pretty prominent in Konoha around the time that the Uchihas were still around. Sasuke hadn't paid attention to anything outside of his own pain of loss at the tender age of 6 during that time. "I thought you were an orphan." Naruto frowned. He sighed before looking at Sasuke. Should he tell them? They would find out eventually. It would be better if he told them now rather than finding out about his past from another source or worse, going behind his back to find out. "I'm not an orphan. My clan." Naruto spat that word out like it had a bad taste in his mouth. Sasuke scowled at this behavior. Ever since he lost his clan, he felt people should always cherish their family. "You never know what you have until it's gone. Abandoned me when I was 6. They wanted nothing to do with me, so they kicked me out and made me live on my own. They left the village and moved closer to the daimyo's lands so that they could be further away from me." "What?" interjected Sakura, looking horrified at that very prospect. What the hell kind of family was that? How could they do such a thing? Why didn't your parents stop them? "My father died during the Kyuubi attack on the village," explained Naruto, before his face was turned a tinge of red with anger, his palms clenched tightly. "My mother is the clan head, Uzumaki Kushina. She's the one who made the decision to leave me by myself." His teammates' eyes widened at the revelation. "What the fuck?" thought Sasuke, disgusted with this new information. He had always expected clans to unconditionally love their family, at least, that's how the Uchiha had always been from his experiences. What sort of clan abandoned a 6-year-old kid? Oh sure, his clan had technically abandoned him, but only because they were all murdered. They hadn't all up and left him. "Why did they do such a thing?" asked Sakura. She was horrified by what she had just learned. "How could your mother, of all people, do that to you?" Naruto looked down. He didn't want to look at their faces of pity. "I wasn't born with a bloodline. Uzumakas always show signs of their bloodlines at the age of 6 or younger, but I never did," said Naruto. He despised reliving this terrible memories, but it was good to talk about them. His comrades would found out eventually anyway, better to learn it from him. Uzumakas all have different bloodlines. The clan came about from bloodline clans that migrated from Kurigakura during the latter half of the bloodline purge. Not many other villages were willing to house the economic burden of hundreds of thousands of refugees from all across Kurigakura. This will be a bit long, so please bear with me. Uzumaki Kushina, with the approval of the Sandaime Sama and the council, started a refugee system that eventually allowed them to come here and become Konoha citizens. They eventually decided to become one unified clan, since their numbers were too few to really be influential in Konoha politics as separate clans, and elected Kushina, their savior. As their clan head, it didn't hurt that during that time her husband, the Yondaime Hokage, approved these measures. None of the council, civilian or shinobi, had any problems with another clan mixed with several different bloodlines join the village. The Uzumaki clan itself has become intermixed in bloodlines due to the clan intermarriages between different bloodlines, though these were all out of free will. Very few marry outside the clan. This bloodline mix-up means that parents won't know what bloodline their offspring may get. A person can only be born with one bloodline, naturally therefore. The mix-up of bloodlines may cause some bloodlines to be more dominant than others, or cause a new or maybe even different bloodline to be passed on. The two most common bloodlines noticed in the clan are the Steel Skin and Dead Bone Pulse bloodlines. Wait, I think I've heard of that, began Sakura, thinking back to her childhood. Sasuke nodded in agreement, he remembered them too. They were a big thing back when I was really young, didn't they leave Konoha? Naruto shook his head. That's not entirely correct, said Naruto. He cleared his throat ready to launch into another explanation. They left Konoha to join the Fire Daimyo's estate as part of his elite guard. They have their own, rather large, estate as part of the Daimyo's estate and conduct many of the guarding and espionage missions he sends out. It's mostly to protect and acquire priceless antiques or merchandise respectively. They get a cut of the profits for all successful missions. They are hiding something, stated Sasuke, giving Naruto a skeptical look. There is no way a clan leaves an entire village just because one member has shamed them. Usually the shame would be due to a murder or rape or some other criminal activity. There has to be something about you that they were afraid of. Naruto looked down on the ground at that. Your father, began Sakura, hesitating slightly. She gave Naruto a once-over before gasping in surprise. Was Yondaime Sama? If you're Kushina's child then. Sasuke's eyes widened in realization. Uzumaki Karen, the youngest female to ever become a jounin, is your twin sister? Questioned Sasuke, before realizing that Naruto looked exactly like the Yondaime as Karen seemed to have gained a mix of her parents' features and hairstyles. She became renowned as one of the strongest jounin in the village because of a rare bloodline she was born with. Sasuke frowned, he remembered researching strong ninja a few years back, but he couldn't recall that girl's bloodline. He shook his head before fixating Naruto with a gaze. So tell us, what's your secret? Naruto sighed in depression. He hated being put on the spot like this. Both his teammates eagerly awaited the information. He knew, because they were his teammates, that it was best to tell them sooner than later. 12 years ago during the Kyubus attack on Konoha, the Yondaime my father couldn't kill it. That was a lie that the Sandaime informed the new generation, began Naruto. Sakura gave him a look that clearly said he was lying. While Sasuke contemplated his words, he did the next best thing. He sacrificed his life to seal it inside me. After my clan abandoned me and left me unprotected, villagers would come out at night to beat me. This one night, it got really bad. They aimed to kill instead of just hurt me, and I remember desperately wanting to stay alive. I cried, screamed, and begged, but no one came to help. The last thing I recalled was the desire to hurt the people who were torturing me. I won't lie, I wanted them dead. I woke up a few minutes later to find all my attackers were dead with no trace of damage on them. The Anbu and Sandaime Sama came after that. I don't remember the rest. I fell asleep after they arrived, thinking I was safe. I know that after that, I was never attacked again, because Sandaime Sama had Anbu routinely guard me 24/7 after that event. The reason I didn't react much to killing was because I occasionally dream of that night and waking up to find those dead bodies, knowing there is a demon inside of me that caused it. He looked to see his teammates' reactions. Sasuke looked surprisingly remorse. Sakura, however, looked disgusted. Naruto held back his sadness. He had come to expect one or both his teammates would hate him after telling them the whole truth. At least one was better than nothing. Naruto, said Sakura softly, interrupting his musings, please stand up. Naruto frowned but hesitantly did so. Sakura got up at the same time and walked over to him. He half expected a slap or perhaps a biting remark, maybe even blaming him for some such thing because of the Kyuubi. Instead, she gave him a tight hug. He froze at the contact. Nobody but his lover had ever intimately touched him like that. When she let go, he could see tears from her cheeks. He gave her a confused look. I'm sorry, she told him sincerely, surprising him yet again. I had no idea, I thought you were just a bad kid, which was why I listened to my parents. I had no idea you had such a rough life or the village's blind prejudice to you. I never questioned how everyone seemed to unanimously hate you, except the Sandaime, so I'm sorry. He didn't really know what to say. I forgive you. She smiled at that before returning to sit by her tree. Sasuke looked pensive before he seemed to make a decision. Naruto sat back down by his tree. It must not have been easy to tell us that, began Sasuke, choosing his words carefully. He had demanded Naruto spill the beans, so it was only fair. A stray thought bothered Sasuke. What if the Kyuubi contract had been the reason that Kyuubi attacked Konoha? Even if it was only a small reason, then Sasuke's clan was, in some way, responsible for Naruto's miserable childhood. The thought disturbed him, so I'll tell you my secret as well. My older brother killed my entire clan. He used our clan Dijutsu to torture me into seeing their deaths repeatedly. I've had nightmares for years about my clan's death for 6 years now. Ever since then, I've been obsessed with getting revenge on him. His teammates listened in rapt attention as he went over the Uchiha massacre perpetuated by his older brother. They listened in horrified fascination and gave the condolences. Once he had finished, Sasuke, surprisingly, felt the pain ease slightly. He had never before discussed it with anyone and hadn't realized how much he had bottled it up. He knew they would never fully understand his pain like he did, but having talked about it did relieve the stress he felt in his heart. He had even told him of his fixation to be stronger. I don't have pasts as bad as both of yours, began Sakura after Sasuke finished, but I think I understand why being a shinobi is so important to both of you now. I'm going to ask Kakashi-sensei for more training after this. I know now that you guys will push hard in being shinobi, so I'll try my best too. They didn't realize it then, but Squad 7 had stopped becoming just teammates at that point. They would only realize it later. All three had just become friends. The following weeks after that conversation, the team grew closer. Kakashi was delighted to see his team become closer and told both Naruto and Sasuke that he was proud they had chosen to share their past so early with the team. They had beamed at the praise, and Kakashi went on to instruct Sakura and Sasuke on water walking after they had mastered that. He had given them chakra papers to see what their elements were. All three were genuinely surprised to see that Sasuke's paper crumpled and burned somewhat. Kakashi took note of that, realizing that Sasuke had the affinity of two elements. Sakura's crumbled a little, indicating that her element was earth. After the team felt they mastered the jutsus given to them well enough during their training, they ate a hearty meal of Tsunami's best cooking. She wanted to congratulate the team for periodically training so hard and for protecting her father. The fact stayed after finding out the true difficulty of the mission was a godsend to her. Afterwards, Naruto left to go train in the forest at night. Explaining that he wanted to learn to do the Shunshin no Jutsu without hand seals and that he would practice all night, Kakashi gave him leave but told him to be back by morning and not to overdo it. Naruto used Hajukage Bunshin once he arrived at a secluded forest area and set to work on training to master the Shunshin at a Jounin level. It wasn't as easy as it looked, but he would try. If only you were stronger, spoke the young Naruto, facing the older version with a condescending glare, then you wouldn't have been abandoned. You were useless, all they expect from you is failure. Naruto simply stared. He had this dream for years now. The voice would mock him, insult him, and continue to degrade him unimpeded. No matter how much he had yelled, shouted, and pleaded throughout the 6 years he had this dream when his clan abandoned him, it never yielded. Naruto identified the voice as Kyuubi, manipulating his emotions to hurt him. How or why the Kyuubi would do this? He didn't know, he assumed that it was just something the demon took pleasure in. "You're the demon," said the miniature Naruto snidely as it sensed the boy's thoughts. Naruto stared blankly in response. Hopefully this nightmare would just end and he would be done with it. If only you had power like mine, you could make them pay, you could even have the world at your grasp. But you're stupid. You're so fucking stupid. You do not know how to wield your own power. Look at Nichin, she became a famous Jounin because of skill and her bloodline. She enhanced the reputation of the clan. She's seen as the pinnacle of their successes. She's a prodigy. What do you have? What have you accomplished by comparison? Nothing. Why is that? Because you are a nothing. The memory came and jolted Naruto from his reverie of self-pity. No, he would not be an emo or act like the world owed him something. No, she had been right. He would fight this. You studied so diligently after they abandoned you, studied jutsu scrolls they accidentally left behind, studied up on bloodlines to desperately see if you had signs of one, so you could beg to come back, studied in school hard only for teachers to unfairly grade you, kept to yourself because you didn't want to give anyone any more reasons to hate you, and did your best to train hard. What did any of that amount to for you in the end? You failed to get them to return. Why would that be? Because you are an absolute failure. You would be better off dead. No, said Naruto firmly, glaring at his arrogant mini-version. I am not nothing, I'll do fine on my own. I've come this far. I may not be a Jounin or a clan genius like Nichin, but I'm not jealous over it. I'll face life with my own strength. I can do it. She believes in me, and now I have a sensei and friends who believe in me. I'm doing better now than I ever was, so you can go fuck yourself. The mini-version grinned darkly in satisfaction. Prove it then, replied little Naruto before swiftly coming over to him and socking him in the face. Naruto reeled as he actually felt that blow. He gazed at the younger version in pure shock. How was that even possible? The fight ensued. Naruto awoke in a fright. He instinctively used chakra sensing and clamped his hand down on the intruder right next to him. The intruder tried to let go, but he held on too tightly. His eyes roamed to face his foe. He could sense the bloodline of an Uzumaki within this one. "Why are you here?" snapped Naruto, glaring at the boy in surprise. He nearly mistook the boy for a girl. "Did the Uzumaki clan send you here to kill me?" The boy looked startled and managed to pull free. "Uzumaki clan?" asked the boy, startled by his question. "I'm sorry, but I have no idea what you're referring to." Naruto squinted at the boy before his posture relaxed. The boy seemed to relax too in spite of himself. "Sorry," mumbled Naruto as he got up and started to stretch his body. The other boy got up as well and looked at him quizzically. "It's just my chakra senses identify your chakra as the same as that of my clan. It exists in Konohagakure no Sado. The clan takes in those with bloodlines from Kurigakura as refugees. My chakra sense picked up that you had a bloodline because of your unique chakra flow. All people with bloodlines have some sort of enhanced chakra flow from where their body uses the bloodline." The boy looked at him stunned. As the haze of sleep from Naruto's mind slowly eroded, he realized he had sensed this specific chakra signature before. "That's quite an amazing ability that you have," spoke the boy cautiously. Naruto grinned in response at the praise. Neither could betray themselves in this farce. They didn't know how strong the other truly was. "My name's Haku. I've come out here to pick herbs for an injured friend of mine." "That's thoughtful of you," said Naruto, nodding, picking up on the possibility that it was Abusa that this boy was helping. "Perhaps I can be of assistance." Haku smiled in relief upon thinking that Naruto was ignorant of whom he was. "That won't be necessary. I'm almost finished. Thank you for the offer though." Haku left to find the last remaining herbs needed. "See you later, Hunter-san," muttered Naruto, so quietly that Haku barely heard it. Haku froze before turning around. Naruto hadn't attacked. He just stood there with a sad smile on his face. "It's a shame that we're enemies. Perhaps had circumstances been different we could have been allies or even friends." Haku frowned at the unsettling feeling he gained at the pit of his stomach before quickly leaving. Kakashi had stationed the entire team to watch over the bridge in the days that followed. After Naruto reported the incident, Naruto had clones watching the outskirts of the forest. In case of any attacks on Tezuna's home, Kakashi had recovered to full health in those weeks. On one particular day, the mist had grown heavier than usual, and Kakashi instructed the workers to vacate the premises because he was certain there would be an oncoming attack. Upon meeting a healthy Zabuza and the supposed hunter Nin Haku, a battle ensued. Kakashi faced Zabuza head-on as he instructed Sakura to protect the bridge builder and Naruto to back up Sasuke. Sasuke was matching Heike Senbon with ease. Naruto was about to interfere when Haku used water icicles to hit Sasuke dead on, but Sasuke told him to stay back, citing he could handle it. Naruto was amazed by the enemy's use of half-seals. For years, he had assumed that getting the seals and the right chakra levels down would mean mastering the jutsu, but this discovery opened whole new avenues of which to use jutsu. He could take a page from Haku and Zabuza. He was annoyed, however, as he watched Sasuke still refuse his help. Naruto, somewhat frustrated, bit back a snarky comment and watched him patiently. He knew Sasuke wanted to prove himself because of his brother, instilling him with an inferiority complex, but Naruto preferred a live friend to a dead one. He was one step away from coming in to smash Haku with his fist. Sakura, fortunately, couldn't see the battle, otherwise she would have been just as worried. When the dome of ice formed, Naruto snapped into attention. He summoned 2 cage buncheons and left them outside the dome as he jumped high into the air, used the necessary hand seals, and blew out a green fireball jutsu at one of the mirrors. It hit the ice mirror dead on, but Naruto gaped as he noticed that the ice mirror slowly changed back to its original shape. He tried throwing fireballs again and again as his body neared the mirror. It kept fixing itself, and Naruto summoned a heavy dose of his chakra to throw out the largest and strongest fireball he could at the crystal ice mirrors. He groaned in frustration as he noticed that the melted fixed themselves back up. Sasuke was beginning to resemble a human pincushion and didn't have enough energy to get out in time. He watched helplessly as his body was ready to smack into one of the mirrors. As he closed in on it, he shut his eyes for the inevitable impact, but to his shock, he felt a splash of water as he careened right through the mirror. Naruto looked behind him to see Haku throw Senbon at his back, paralyzing his movements and making him crash down at the center near Sasuke in a heap. He got up quickly, gritting his teeth at the pain. "I need to keep focus. Falling unconscious here will only put both of us in jeopardy." He got up quickly and activated Shunshin no Jutsu to avoid any further oncoming projectiles. He wasn't fast enough to get out of the ice prison, but he was able to protect Sasuke from any further Senbon attacks by blocking them with kunai. Sasuke, quickly getting the hint, started throwing fireballs at the mirrors. Haku didn't risk coming out of the mirrors anymore for fear of Naruto's speed catching up to him. Toying with us, muttered Naruto, blocking more projectiles. Sasuke listened carefully while shooting fireballs at the mirrors in succession. He could easily have killed us by now, Hess looking to incapacitate and avoid killing. He cold killed us already if he wanted to. Suddenly Sasuke became more adept at moving out of the way of projectiles, so much so that Naruto no longer had to focus on protecting him and sent his own fireballs at the ice crystals. Naruto noted the red eyes and tomos that Sasuke gained. Naruto simply pointed at his own cerulean eyes for Sasuke to understand the non-verbal communication. Sasuke grinned in response. He felt much more confident now, and having unlocked his Sharingan of all things in mid-battle was a huge bonus. They both set out to throw as many green fireballs as possible at different mirrors to expend Heika's reserves. They knew a jutsu like this couldn't be kept up for too long, regardless of if this shinobi was or wasn't a jounin. They were guessing, but judging from the slowing movements, it seemed to be working. Suddenly, Haku, in an act of desperation, appeared on every mirror and threw senbon from all of them. Their eyes widened as they both cursed. There was nothing they could do about the projectiles. They were both hit by the senbon full force. They fell to the floor paralyzed. Haku, within the crystal ice mirrors, breathed deeply as he tried to conserve the remainder of his chakra. He was becoming dangerously close to losing all his chakra and entering the exhaustion state. He couldn't keep this up forever, but it seemed he didn't have to because they were both down for the count. Naruto got back up to his feet slowly, and Sasuke staggered forth only a few moments later. Haku cursed. He well and truly cursed. It seemed that despite his abject desire against it, he would need to kill them. Heika's stomach twisted in a knot. He didn't want to kill these shinobi. They were barely younger than him, fresh out of the academy from the reports Zabuza had researched on Kakashi. And to Haku they were just children, very gifted children, but children nonetheless. Haku took no pleasure in killing random mercenaries. Most Wirrant savages who plundered and raped like cartoons would have moronic children believe. They were hard-working fathers or brothers who had no other means to feed their families or to feed themselves. Haku killed these kinds of men for a living, as his master instructed, for need of money. He took no pleasure in it and tried to make them as clean as possible. He didn't like his victims to suffer. This was a hypocrisy that Haku had come to acknowledge. If you believed most people to be good, then those that Haku killed would more than likely be good people. If you acknowledged them as bad, then Haku himself was really no better. And now, Haku was in a situation he had never wished prey to Kami, even that he would never be in. He would have to kill children. He didn't care if they had signed up for this by becoming shinobi. To him they were still children. Haku made a silent prayer to whatever heaven above to have mercy on his soul for what he was about to do. He took aim, but was stopped suddenly by a vicious roar. Haku looked up aghast as he noticed a water dragon having been summoned and quickly coming in to attack and thereby melt the mirrors. Haku cursed himself, infuriated by his own ineptitude. His prayer for mercy had given his opponents all the time needed to summon a water dragon to kill him. Haku, in desperation due to his still waning chakra reserves, jumped out into the air, right in front of the behemoth of a jutsu, and slammed his right hand onto its nose. Haku used his Hyutin bloodline to start freezing the water dragon's face. He didn't get much further from the head as his body gave out to chakra exhaustion as the dragon's head, the mirrors, and the water behind the dragon came crashing down all at once. Haku blacked out, acknowledging his own doom and his own foolishness for giving some mercy to an enemy. It had cost him his life. The water dragon's fall had created a sonic boom at the impact point, and the water from the rest of the water dragon's body flooded the bridge. Kakashi and Zabuza were forced to stop their fight as torrents of water flowed towards them at impressive speeds, while the excess seeped away at the bridge's sides. Sakura gasped in shock at the oncoming raging waves before snapping into attention. She sped through the necessary hand seals with ease. Oten. Doroku Geshi. She slammed her palms on the ground as a miniature wall sprang forth from the bridge and protected her from the front of the brutal waves. It crashed onto her wall, but fortunately the wall didn't give away from the constant impact. Sakura and Tazuna both stood the other side, keeping the bodies pinned as the water rapidly moved past them. Immediately, her concern for her friends overcame her. "Oh Kami, oh Kami," she thought frantically, "don't let them have been killed by this. What the hell caused all this water anyway? Was it that hunter Nin?" The wind that kicked up due to the immense crash near the ice mirrors had caused the mist to die away. Kakashi and Zabuza turned to the epicenter of the noise to see a bound Haku on the ground with a kunai poised at his throat from a rather pissed off looking Naruto. Half of the frozen dragon's head was behind the three. Sasuke, with his Sharingan eyes still activated, turned to face Zabuza. "If upper we kill him." Kakashi and Zabuza both gaped for their own reasons. Zabuza because he couldn't believe too fresh out of the academy, brats had bested Haku, whom by all rights could be considered a low jounin shinobi, and Kakashi because he was surprised that Naruto and Sasuke had come up with such a cutthroat albeit smart plan. Zabuza put his cleaver back in his holder behind him and stared at Kakashi. It seems you've trained your brats well in the art of being a shinobi, snorted Zabuza, annoyed by his own misjudgment regarding Kakishi's team and not at Haku's loss. It seems the last Uchiha of Konoha has finally unlocked his Sharingan, small wonder that Haku lost. Looks like your brats won this for you. Kakashi just stared. Of all the ways he foresaw this battle ending, this certainly wasn't it. Naruto and Sasuke had literally won the battle for him. Was there anything that these two couldn't do? Pitiful. Snorted Gatu, catching the attention of the occupants of the bridge, Demon of the Mist. You've been bested by children. They all noticed a large band of mercenaries behind Gatu. He grinned in triumph. Kakashi and Zabuza exchanged a look. They silently came to the agreement of no longer being enemies. Gata's intentions were so clear that he didn't have to say anything. Naruto got off Haku and restored some of his chakra before shaking him awake. Sasuke cut his ropes. Haku looked up in confusion to see Gatu and his men before his eyes hardened in understanding. I was planning to kill you once you had dealt with the bridge builder and his hired shinobi, snarled Gatu, scowling at them. Sakura and Tazuna both moved away from the wall and rushed toward Kakishi's side. She was silently relieved to see that Naruto and Sasuke were both alright, but you couldn't even do that right, twice. It seems I'll just have to kill all of you. It'll handle this, said Naruto, loudly enough for everyone to hear. Gatu and his mercenaries chuckled in response. His two clones left outside the crystal mirrors that had summoned the water dragon. Both rapidly started the hand seals once more. Suiten. Shuriken no Jutsu. Water erupted from Gata's side of the bridge. From both sides of the bridge came two large water dragons that merged into a single large water dragon. It roared with fury as Gata's mercenaries started fleeing in shock and horror. Gatu himself was stunned in place by the behemoth in front of him. The water dragon smashed into the fleeing mercenaries and Gatu, killing them instantly from the impact and causing their bodies to fall to the sides of the bridge or far away into the forest area behind them. After the jutsu was finished, there was no longer anyone left standing. Zabuza whistled, acknowledging the impressive display. Sasuke smirked, satisfied that they had completed an A rank mission so successfully, and the rest just stared in surprise at Naruto's jutsu. Naruto couldn't help but grin at the amazed looks he was getting. Haku, come here for a moment, spoke Zabuza after seeing Gatu taken care of. Haku gingerly made his way to Zabuza. The Great Lucky Seven Bridge? Asked Sarutobi, putting down the mission report and looking toward Kakashi, Sasuke, and Haku. That's quite a mouthful. Kakashi shrugged in response. Naruto was too modest to allow them to name it solely after him, responded Kakashi, so they tried to think of a name to thank the entire squad. Not the best of names though. Sarutobi shook his head bemused. Naruto and Sakura had left to go to their respective homes, as Haku followed Kakashi to register himself as an official Konoha shinobi. Sasuke trailed behind, saying that he needed to speak with the Hokage on a personal matter. Sasuke, what brought you here? Asked the Hokage, looking at the last Uchiha curiously. Hokage-sama, began Sasuke respectfully, I'd like to register and adopt Uzumaki Naruto and Haku into the Uchiha clan. The occupants of the room gaped at that statement. It seemed events in Konoha were going to get more interesting. Hey Naruto, said Sasuke, entering Naruto's dilapidated apartment. Naruto looked over from the fridge to see who it was. Pack your stuff, you're moving from this crap shack. Naruto's eyes bugged out at that proclamation. What was going on here? What? Why? Asked Naruto in confusion, turning to give Sasuke his full attention. I don't have anywhere else to go, and I didn't receive any notice. You're moving in with me and Haku into the Uchiha district, said Sasuke, getting to the point of the matter. This place isn't fit to live in, and I won't have a teammate being extorted into paying bills for this dump with his hard-earned money if I can provide a better living for free. Sasuke, you don't have to. Naruto did not desire to be pitied. He appreciated his friend's gesture of goodwill, but Naruto could take care of himself. We'll be having a hearing in about a month's time about you becoming a member of the Uchiha clan, interrupted Sasuke, smirking as Naruto gaped in surprise. Hopefully, if all goes well, you can become an official member and be removed from the Uzumaki clan. For God knows what reason, the Uzumaki clan still have you listed as a member, even though you've been living off government stipends with no aid or help from that clan for 6 years now. I've already listed my clan advisors to argue that point as a reason for you officially being removed. Sasuke Naruto didn't really know what to say at all the trouble that his friend was going through. Just for him, Naruto was overwhelmed with joy. Thank you. Later, Naruto's girlfriend helped with the packing to help Naruto move into the Uchiha district. Sasuke had a wonderful time getting to really know her. It certainly explained why Naruto kept it a secret, and her attitude changes from what he knew of her. During the following weeks after the Wave Country incident, Squad 7 grew closer as a team. They would practice and share jutsus, test their individual taijutsu styles against each other, or just talk to each other. Kakashi would always arrive late, so all three decided to make the most of it. It was better than mindlessly waiting for 3 hours, not bothering to even make conversation, and simply straying into their own little worlds of thought. After all, how stupid could one be to do that every day? Pretty freaking dumb, they all agreed. All three hated waiting for Kakashi to show up on time, and since they cold convinced the asshole to come during his scheduled time like any professional shinobi, they decided to spring traps on Kakashi a few times due to the disgruntled feelings over the constant T-rank missions they endured. They skipped out on waiting entirely and spent the days together for leisure activities, ranging from studying new C-rank jutsus in the Konoha library to going to the movies. While this was insubordination, the three told Kakashi with a thinly veiled threat to report to the Hokage about his constant tardiness and how it was detrimental to the overall objective of teaching a team of adolescent shinobi. Sakura wisely pointed out that D-rank missions were meaningless in team building because each member of the team would be isolated in dealing with their particular section of whatever mission they were working on. The Tora the Cat mission, while being a notable exception, usually caused much infighting within teams since the first time the mission was ever handed out in Konoha military history. Kakashi had no objections to the three spending time together and walking out on missions. While it looked poorly on their overall ability as shinobi officially, the three were acting together as a team and learning from each other. D-rank missions were made to cater to a bunch of lazy common folk who had argued vehemently with the bureaucracy over making changes so that they could exploit the military force of the village. The only aspect Kakashi cared about was teamwork, even he was tired of being charged with constant D-rank missions. During one of their days out, they came across Konohamaru being accosted by a Sunanin with strange face paint on his face. Naruto hurriedly rushed in to help. "Hey!" bellowed Naruto in anger, "what the hell do you think you are doing?" "Back off," snarled Kankuro in response to the angry genin before him. "I'm just teaching this kid some manners, he bumped into me without apologizing. Unhand him now or else I tell Hokage-sama that you've harmed his grandson." Naruto snarled back with vigor, "I don't think Suna is in a position for war, considering the economic depression your people are in." The Sand Kunoichi besides the Sand Shinobi frowned at his words. Kankuro abruptly dropped Konohamaru upon Naruto's words of just who he had nearly harmed. The duo quickly apologized and left. Naruto felt a third chakra signature, one very powerful one, following them closely. He frowned upon realizing that a demon host was their teammate. A demon container would be entering the Chunin exams. He turned to Konohamaru to see how the boy was. "Wow, Naruto," spoke Sakura impressed, "you handled that without things getting violent." Konohamaru scowled at Naruto and turned away. "You didn't have to use my grandpa's name to get them to stop, Naruto Nai." Naruto sighed in response to that statement. He knew Konohamaru hated becoming a shadow of his grandfather, but Naruto had seen no other way to make it end peaceably. "Hey, give him a break, he saved you," said Sasuke to Konohamaru pointedly, "and he only did that because he wanted to make sure you weren't harmed. You weren't, you should be thanking him." "It's fine, Sasuke," spoke Naruto. Naruto gave his full attention to his first ever fan. "I'm sorry I haven't been around much, Konohamaru, I've just been busy because I'm on a genin squad now. If you'd like, you can spend time with us right now. I've learned some defensive earth jutsus I can teach you." Konohamaru brightened at that prospect. The group of 6, joined by Konohamaru's friends, went on to practice various jutsu exercises for recreational purposes in Squad 7's training ground. Later that evening. "Whoa, Haku. Are you alright?" asked Naruto in concern upon seeing Haku arrive to the training ground in an exhausted state. "What happened to you? You look beat." Sakura had just agreed to take the three to their homes, while Naruto and Sasuke continued to spar. Sakura had been too tired to continue training, so she agreed to take each child to their respective homes and then go home herself. Naruto and Sasuke continued training, while waiting for Haku to arrive as they had agreed. They had hoped to try training with the boy even further. "I guess training with you is out," said Sasuke jokingly, hoping to lighten the mood. His face took a more serious look. "What happened? You look ready to keel over." "It'll be fine," assured Haku as he sat down by the stumps. Naruto and Sasuke walked over to sit with him. "I had to undergo an examination for my abilities because of my bloodline's unique powers. They decided to test it as much as possible. Originally, it seemed that my powers would rank me as a high-level Chunin, but because of my medical knowledge, battle experience, and proficiency in my own variation of silent killing they've classed me as a jounin." Naruto whistled in applause as Sasuke gave his congratulations to their new friend. Haku smiled weakly at the praise. "It's not all good news," said Haku hesitantly. Naruto looked at him questioningly as Sasuke just gave him a look that set out with it. Haku chuckled a little. "Before I could become a shinobi I had to swear an oath to the will of fire." Haku grimaced at that. He looked at his two new friends and was relieved to see sympathetic looks and not scorn. "Is it because you have strong feelings for the will of water?" asked Naruto cautiously, his inexperience with the subject leading him to be nervous about offending Haku. Haku smiled and shook his head slowly, he sighed before beginning. I don't believe in any of them, the will of fire, earth, water, sky, or well, anything, admitted Haku finally. Zabuza-sama was a modernistic follower of the will of water, but he never tried forcing me to follow the religion, instead. He taught me the history of Kurigakura and how the extremist beliefs of the Nidaime Mizukage led to revolution, with the eventual creation of the Sandaime Mizukage's tyrannical regime. I was free to choose what faith to believe in, yet after the death of my parents I couldn't believe in anything, I just couldn't after what I went through because it felt so hollow. What about you two? I stopped believing after my entire clan was robbed from me, said Sasuke bluntly, surprising Haku. What loving god would allow that to happen to me? I understand that it's selfish to think like that, but that's how I feel. I don't think there is anything wrong with it either. Religion itself selfishly holds to a code it claims to be humble. Looking outside the box made me realize that I didn't gain the Sharingan before my clan died, so I never went through the personal Uchiha clan rituals. I studied them a few times out of curiosity, but they all seemed so primitive. I couldn't understand how anyone could believe them and not be a nutcase. I don't know, admitted Naruto softly, I'd like to believe in the will of fire's virtues, and I respect the idea of being compassionate and brave, but with how life is in the shinobi world I just don't know. I want to believe it, but am not convinced. I actually did study and practice my clan's personal rituals from my memory and observations of how they were back before they left. I thought that if I did them diligently then my clan would want me back. That, of course, didn't happen. Right now, I'm just undecided, I guess. Haku nodded sympathetically and smiled. Naruto gave a weak smile in return. Haku and Sasuke had both heard the slip, but didn't comment. Sasuke quickly thought of something to change the subject. He didn't wish Naruto to dwell on this topic. Haku, could you tell us the history of Kurigakura? I'm curious to learn more about it, asked Sasuke. All the news I recall hearing was about this or that conflict or war going on. It seems like all of Water Country has problems. Haku chuckled at that statement before beginning. It began rather far back. The Nidaime Mizukage was a bloodline purist and gave a lot of privileges to bloodline clans. A person from a prestigious bloodline clan could murder, rape, steal, or torture the civilians without any consequences, explained Haku grimacing. It was actually worse for shinobi without bloodlines. They were forced to participate in grueling death matches to toughen themselves, such as Zabuza-sama killing his entire graduating class for just the entertainment of the clan heads. Children with bloodlines were exempt from such matches and automatically placed into squads without any real tests. Naruto and Sasuke looked disgusted by that. Naruto had always been kept in the dark regarding the bloodier and negative aspects of the old water clans. It was no surprise. The idea that the revolutionary fighters of the old Kurigakura war being more than bloodthirsty monsters was a major no-no to maintain the image of the Uzumaki clan. As one can expect, dissent grew over time, many bloody conflicts occurred, and that caused the Nidaime to react with harsher laws to force the lowly common people into submission. Shinobi and civilians revolted and eventually formed the Revolutionary Army. The Civil War of Fog lasted for 7 bloody years. It was how Zabuza-sama became proficient in silent killing at a very young age. And after that came the bloodline purges? Asked Naruto sullenly. The genocide of Kurigakura was very well known to all shinobi villages. Not immediately in the beginning, there was a call for equal rights and taking over large properties owned by the most prominent clans. However, after the inexplicable deaths of popular revolutionary leaders around the time of the surrenders by the bloodline clans, the only remaining popular figure to rally behind was Yujiro Yagura. That's the Jinchuriki of the three-tailed turtle-like beast and became the Sandaime Mizukage. It was under his rule that the genocide of bloodlines was enacted and tyranny followed. Why? Naruto couldn't help but ask. Sasuke stayed silent. All we ever learn in the academy is that it happened after the revolution. The Uzumaki clan never really spoke on it. I can't even blame them, but I've always wanted to know how or why a Kage could do that to his own people, even if they had a civil war. Zabuza-sama gave me the history and reasons. It was quite tragic. Some would even say the Sandaime Mizukage was justified, began Haku carefully. It is a well-known fact that all the wills teach that Jinchuriki are a vile sin, and that those with bloodlines are either descendants of God, known in human form as Rakuto Sennin, or endowed with powers by God. Jinchuriki are sin? Shouted a startled Naruto, his eyes widened in shock. Since when? I've never heard of that. Sasuke and Haku both regarded him. They were unsure how to approach this revelation. It seemed the Uzumaki clan hadn't taught Naruto the full details of the old religions. Finally, after some hesitation, Sasuke took the initiative. You never knew? asked Sasuke quietly. Naruto shook his head in confirmation. Naruto, virtually all the religions of the shinobi world have passages that contain the demonic entity residing within the body by destroying the human soul that was once in it. The Rakuto Senin's direct words, according to scripture, are to kill Jinchuriki upon creation. It's only been fairly recently in shinobi history that people have recognized those parts as wrong, because the demonic soul is either separately contained or entwined with the life of the human soul inside it. None of the Biju held within have ever died because they've either broken out of the body or healed the person they're tied to until the human died of natural causes, so the Biju is free to break out. Why am I only learning of all this now? Said Naruto bitterly as he glared at the ground. I was never told any of that when I lived with the Uzumaki clan, only the parts about people with bloodlines being descended from God. Now that I think about it, it makes complete sense. They held out until near my 6th birthday to see if a demon spawn could have a bloodline. When it looked like I wasn't going to have one, they left, probably thinking I was nothing but a devil incarnate. They didn't just see me as useless, they saw me as evil. You won't like what else I have to say about the Sandaime Mizukage, said Haku, sighing sadly. From a political and religious perspective, Yujiri Yugura is living proof that the Rakuto Senin's words were entirely correct. Many people have used Yujiri as an example for why Jinchuriki are treated worse off in other shinobi villages. I want to know, responded Naruto with more confidence than he felt. He looked Haku directly in the eyes. Inside, he felt the wounds of the past reopen as another stab was added to his heart. It affects not just how people see me, but my family's past as well. Please, tell me everything. Haku nodded in understanding. He couldn't deny such a request. From the information Zabuza-sama divulged on Yajiro's past, he lived as a street urchin for the most part. He had a family, but after he was chosen to host the Three Tails, his family wanted nothing to do with him. The Three Tails needed to be sealed because it ravaged nearby farmlands that were vital to the main village of Kurigakura. The demon couldn't be killed, and they annually lost soldiers trying to fend it off, explained Haku. Yajiro's treatment by the villagers, bloodline clans included, was deplorable. He scavenged for food constantly because nobody cared to feed him. He was attacked by mobs nearly every week and endured insults of being a demon almost every waking day of his life. At some point during the early parts of his shinobi career, he openly declared that he would be Mizukage someday, so that people would acknowledge and respect him. He wore a facade to get through his daily hardships, and his life seemed to be becoming better because the peril allowed him to rent his own apartment in the poor side of town, and he could purchase edible food to eat. The bloodline clans caught word of his many boastings. Some waved it off as ravings of a fool, but others grew resentful. Some of the bloodline clans broke into his apartment one night. They proceeded to rape and torture him. The Nidaime found out and decided to punish the Jinchuriki for his loudmouth by condoning his rape and torture as a spectacle to be performed. Many members of bloodlines all over would attack him nightly to do things to him. If he tried escaping the village, he was caught, and if he tried fighting back, then they would hurt him even more. The Three Tails only ever healed his wounds. It wasn't until years later during the war effort that he learned to harness its power to kill. Why didn't anyone try to stop him when he took power and began the purges? Asked Sasuke. I can understand that most of them would be gung-ho for it, but why didn't anyone demand it stopped? And who selected Yujiri Yugura to be Mizukage? Because most of the revolutionaries were supportive of it in the beginning, replied Haku. Many of the old clans desired to keep their positions of power under the terms of surrender, but were refused. Well, nobody went through the hellish life of Yujiri. The members of the revolution typically had families that were murdered or raped by arrogant bloodline clan members. The vast majority of Kurigakura's revolutionary army had changed to rid themselves of their religious beliefs. Yujiri himself is known to view bloodlines as the root of all evil, and views demon containers as the true messengers of the Lord. He changed much of Water's historic and religious texts to conform to this ideology. Thus, the bloodline purges were hardly carried out. It caused the sweeping change in other hidden villages' archaic laws when reports of Kurigakura's condition got out. Yujiri Yugura was unanimously selected to be the Sandaime Mizukage by the people, mostly because he was the only popular figure left, and partly because it was he who killed the Nidaime Mizukage. However, many people ignore the fact that the Nidaime's prowess had waned due to his very decrepit age. He was around 100 years of age during his death. Even then, Yujiri relied heavily on his Biju's powers to combat the Nidaime's lava bloodline. The Jotun clan, the Nidaime's own clan, was the first targeted for the purge. It is only recently that the Second Civil War, which has not been given a name yet, began. Dissent and clashes slowly rose over time because of the Sandaime Mizukage's unending massacre of the bloodlines and bloodline backers. The Second Civil War took root when Yujiri dispatched assassins to kill the 7 champions of Mist. Honorary shinobi swordsmen given their titles for either winning critical moments of the Civil War of Fog or for their enhanced skill in sword techniques. He targeted Hoshigaki Kisame, specifically because Hoshigaki-san is known as the strongest swordsman in Mist and the last of a prominent bloodline. Ijiri used him as a clever political tool to confuse the people of Kurigakura into thinking that he wasn't completely insane in his bloodline extermination plan that ended when Ijiri felt threatened by Hoshigaka's astounding achievements in missions and that he outlived his usefulness. He faked a story about Zabuza-sama attacking him under orders of Hoshigaki in a conspiracy to usurp the title of Kage. He used Zabuza-sama as the scapegoat because he was the weakest of the swordsmen at the time. Zabuza-sama succeeded in killing his attackers, told the other 7 members, and they all fled, despite the Mizukage's official story. Word spread of what truly transpired, and the revolts grew in acknowledgement that the Sandame Mizukage was just as fanatical as the Nidame. Many people were sick of his tyrannical rule over their daily lives under the guise of protection, thus, Kurigakura is mired once more in a civil war. They all contemplated the information given. Haku asked if they had any further inquiries, but was told they didn't. Haku wondered if he should explain that Yujiri had carefully enacted the deaths of the other popular figures via poison and disposing their bodies on fresh battlegrounds to spread misinformation, also that he would be the one to rule Kurigakura. Zabuza had only uncovered that carefully guarded fact recently before the Land of Waves mission in his thorough investigation of the man. Naruto felt sickened by the story, particularly because it further explained why his clan abandoned him. He had spouted about becoming Hokage around the age he was abandoned. Yujiri Yagura had done the same and became one of the worst monsters ever known to the shinobi world. Naruto's dream had died at a young age, and he had no idea what he wanted to do in his life beyond bettering himself as a shinobi. Sasuke wondered what the future of Kurigakura would be. He couldn't help but wonder what his brother's true motives were in killing the Uchiha clan. The idea of testing his capacity seemed like utter childish bullshit now. What Itachi had done was inexcusable. But Sasuke had the burning desire to know why. There had to be more to it. Yujiri Yagura's insanity hadn't been black and white, after all. Alright, we should all go back to the Uchiha compound and wash up, it's getting pretty late. The other 2 nodded in agreement. Sasuke and Naruto helped Haku up. The 3 walked off towards the Uchiha compound. The next day. Glad that you all actually waited, said Kakashi happily in surprise. It saves me the trouble of looking for you 3, since I have something important to discuss with you all. We got here less than 3 minutes ago, replied Naruto bored. We were training in the Uchiha compound until Iruka-sensei attacked us in a genjutsu. It was so pathetic that even Konohamaru recognized it. We beat him up pretty thoroughly. You're here to give us the Chunin exam papers, right? Added Sasuke bluntly. Give them to us already, we only bothered coming here today because we've been waiting for you to give them to us for so long. Took your time, didn't you? Said Sakura snorting in annoyance. The other teams already got their papers and signed off. It's a good thing we've been training all this time, or else we would have had to train extra hard to make up the lost time before the exams. The Chunin exams are only 1 week away. Kakashi's sweat dropped as he noticed the disgruntled looks of his students and processed the information given to him. It's like him the subordinate and they're the ones in charge, thought Kakashi annoyed. Honestly, no respect will teach them a lesson. This should be good, a little fun shouldn't hurt. No, I've decided that you 3 are unfit for the Chunin exams, lied Kakashi folding his arms. You 3 need to show respect to a superior officer and learn proper team building and coordination. You need to learn when to properly get here on time. Snarled Naruto angrily. I don't get angry often, but you're seriously making me lose my patience every damn time. You expect us to wait 3 hours for you to show up? I don't care if you can take on Zabuza, I'm going to fulfill that promise of beating your ass one day. You want us to respect your orders? Then give us the same damn respect by showing up on time. I've told you this before. Yeah? Shouted Sakura, adding her 2 cents. Kakashi-sensei, you're ridiculous. You read porn every day in front of your 12-year-old students and expect us to wait for you while you're doing God knows what. It's completely unbecoming. I was willing to give you the benefit of the doubt and respected you a lot after that A-rank mission against Zabuza, but you've slowly lost all of that. Same with me, said Sasuke. I could even understand if you needed to recuperate, but it's been long past that period. You're not really teaching us anything either at this point. We've taught each other everything we know. Sakura and I have already succeeded the water walking exercise, thanks to Naruto. What are you even good for? Kakashi facepalmed at all the complaints he had just received, very accurate ones too. Even a joke sets them off, thought Kakashi. Damn it, I guess I need to learn from them and show that I actually do take them and this job seriously. Kakashi threw up his arms in exasperation. Alright, I get it. Said Kakashi tiredly. I promise from tomorrow onward that I'll show up on time. Sasuke did his patented smirk. Sakura jumped for joy, squealing yay. And Naruto nodded, smiling. The 3 were willing to believe his words, all 3 liked the man, they just loathed his incompetent habits. As a token to show him serious and to help you 3 prepare for the Chunin exams, it'll be teaching each of you a new jutsu. Since you've all excelled at teamwork so much, it'll mean 3 new jutsus for each of you. Kakashi unsealed the 3 papers in the sealing scroll on his belt. He handed them the papers which they immediately signed off on and handed back. Once they were safely back into the scroll on his belt, he began teaching them 3 new jutsu. Why were those people just standing around trying to get through the wrong door? Questioned Sakura, shaking her head. That was so stupid. Glad we didn't reveal the obvious ninjutsu. Hopefully, all the morons get eliminated before the exams even begin. I can't believe so many shinobi don't know how to count, said Naruto, surprised. You would think that they all had knowledge of basic math. Maybe there was a genjutsu on them too. Doubtful, answered Sasuke, mulling it over. Even if it was, there should been some people who picked up on it and countered it. There are genin who have a natural knack for seeing through genjutsu like that Hyuga. Uchiha Sasuke. Boomed a voice behind them. I challenge you. The 3 turned to see the green spandex wearing genin from before. His eyes blazed with fire as he jumped down from the floor above them. Naruto was secretly impressed by the boy's natural speed. I am Rock Lee, the green beast of Konoha. Green beast? Muttered Sakura in timid confusion. Should you wait for the exams to challenge Sasuke? I must know which one of us rookies of the year is stronger. Uchiha-sen was your year's rookie as I was the rookie for my year, replied the green beast, beating his chest in emphasis. The only way to know is to have a spar. Wasn't the rookie of last year Hyuga Neji? Posited Naruto, slightly confused. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think it was you. Rock Lee bowed his head in shame. Team 7 glanced at each other, wondering if they should take the boy seriously. He had already proclaimed a challenge under false credentials and seemed to have this peculiar attitude. It's true, I lied, confirmed Rock Lee solemnly. The true rookie of the year for my generation was my teammate Hyuga Neji. I just wanted to sound convincing so that Uchiha-sen would take my challenge. Oh well then, how about fighting me? Proposed Naruto thoughtfully. I'd like to test myself against a more experienced genin to see how I measure up. I'm sorry, but the only one I wish to fight is Uchiha-san, said Lee dismissively. It is my sworn oath to prove that bloodline geniuses such as Uchiha-san and my own teammate can be defeated through hard work. Naruto rolled his eyes. Here was another shinobi who emphasized the bloodline superiority. This crap never got old. That's completely ridiculous, admonished Naruto with a lace of annoyance. By putting importance on people who do better and happen to have bloodlines, you are emphasizing your own inferiority as a consequence. Why does it matter if Sasuke fits criteria similar to your teammate? How would beating Sasuke prove that hard work defeats geniuses, as you say? You presumably have more experience than him already. It seems to me that you are just trying to justify yourself. You reject my challenge for the same reason that stuck-up bloodline clans reject people without bloodlines. Lee had no words to say as a response. Naruto walked off, followed closely by Sakura and Sasuke. Petty school kid challenges weren't worth partaking in, and they ultimately proved absolutely nothing. The 3 were pressed for time to enter the Chunin exams anyway. There appeared to be more to the blonde kid than what Lee first assumed. As they entered the test-taking area for the Chunin exams, Ino suddenly jumped from behind and wrapped herself around Sasuke. Sasuke-kun. Bellowed Ino as Sasuke took on an annoyed look. Glad to see that you are finally here. Oh. Why hello there, forehead girl. Sakura looked annoyed but didn't comment. She didn't want to participate in any more stupid games after what she had experienced in Wave Country. It seemed petty and juvenile after seeing dead bodies, a miniature war, and having fraught with the feeling of her life in danger. She felt that she couldn't afford to go back to childish antics, at least. Not if she wanted to keep living as a shinobi and not end up in the morgue. Naruto had been scanning the area to look at all the other teams. He quickly looked away upon spotting one certain team. Sasuke followed his gaze, and his eyes shined with understanding. Team Uzumaki, handpicked by the clan head, had joined this Chunin exam to demonstrate the strength of the Uzumaki clan this year. Both the Fire Daimyo and Uzumaki Kushina hoped to show the finest of Konoha's strength to earn more trade and clients. The Uzumaki team was currently looking straight at Naruto in contempt. They had obviously sensed his chakra signature enter the room. Well, looks like the gang's all here, said Shikamaru, walking over to Team 7, distracting Naruto and Sasuke. Looks like everyone from the graduating class has entered the exams. How troublesome. Taoji gave a silent nod and continued eating his potato chips. Teammates soon came up to them after spotting their graduating class. Can't you be more encouraging? Asked Ino in annoyance. She got off Sasuke and copied Shikamaru's slouched pose with her hands in her pockets. Oh look, all our friends from school got into the exams. How troublesome. Ino had punctuated the last part as she attempted to emulate Shikamaru's voice. Chaoji had made sure to swallow his potato chips before outright laughing at Shikamaru's discomfort. Come on, Shikamaru, all our senseis think we're good enough to become Chunin. Show some enthusiasm and stop being such a downer. I'm not a downer, replied Shikamaru defensively with a hint of annoyance. Yeah, right, you just act like everything and everyone is too much of a bother, you add how troublesome near the end of every sentence like it's a catchphrase, Ino pointed out brashly, why would anyone want to talk to you when you keep doing that? Just stop it, have some fun. Shikamaru blushed and looked away, inwardly, he was cursing troublesome women. Well you're want to talk Ino considering you're acting like a whore, said Kiba openly as he walked toward the rest of the group, I mean, hanging off Sasuke like that. We're 12. What the hell did you just say? Snarled Ino turning to Kiba looking insulted, care to repeat that, dog shit. Akamaru, from within Kiba's hat, growled at Ino. Kiba looked ready to yell back when Hinata swiftly hit him with her elbow to quiet him. Kiba turned to her and smiled appreciatively. Hinata rolled her eyes and turned to Sasuke. Shino stood silently by them and gave a curt nod as hello. Hello Uchiha-san, Uzumaki-san, Haruno-san, greeted the Hyuga heiress. I'm glad that you've all made it, it's a pleasant surprise to see our entire graduating class take the exam, I wish you three the best of luck, same to the rest of you. Ma you don't have to be so formal, said Kiba admonishingly. Hinata's face scrunched up in annoyance, but Kiba didn't appear to see it. Kiba glared at Naruto, I'm gonna kick your ass, Uzumaki. Naruto looked a bit startled at that, Hinata face-palmed and shook her head, and Shino let out an exasperated sigh. Even Shino was at his limits with Kiba's attitude today, the boy had been a tad too boastful about how he would be number one in the exam. Kiba-san, I know you're excited for the tournament, said Hinata carefully, however, I must insist that you stop acting like a fool. Alright, I'll lay off the dead last weakling, said Kiba smirking turning to Hinata, if you go out with me. Kiba-san, muttered Hinata darkly not bothering to turn and face him, this is neither the time nor place to ask such stupid questions. Furthermore I've explained many times before, as the Hyuga heiress, there are certain behavioral customs of my family that I must adhere to, one of them is to have strictly platonic relationships outside of the clan, with people who do not carry a prominent bloodline limit, I have told you this before, and I have mentioned that it is a serious obligation that I must follow. Please refrain from insulting my clan any further. What? Not Kiba was interrupted by Hinata. Hinata finally turned around to glare at him. Yes, you are, said Hinata bluntly, by denouncing my clan's traditions as old and rubbish, you are insulting the Hyuga name, stop it, my family will ask that I be removed from Kurenai-sensei's team and may seek damages for your slander. Pursuing a personal relationship with me is foolhardy, you do not carry a strong bloodline, and I don't see you as anything more than a friend. Kiba looked a bit hurt by that statement, but seemed to let it slide, neither noticed Naruto's fists balled in rage. Naruto calmed himself down to make sure that he didn't act out his anger, he tried to keep his anger in check most times, and Kiba's words were really pushing it. Hinata turned to face the rest of them. Would you greenhorns keep it down, demanded a voice as footsteps closed in on them. Naruto turned around to see a bespectacled man with silver hair, Yaoru causing a commotion for the other participants. Naruto looked to see most people in the room were just talking to each other, most of the teams seemed to be strategizing about the test. Naruto jolted slightly when he sensed the man's chakra, this man had as much chakra as Kakashi-sensei. He was likely one of the examiners. We're sorry, apologized Naruto at once, were we breaking any rules? No, said the man looking at him strangely, oh sorry, I'm Yakushi Kabuto, I'm a veteran in these exams. Wait, you're not an examiner? Asked Naruto in surprise, Kabuto's eyed him confused before his eyes shined with realization upon looking at Naruto, what did you mean by veteran? It means that Hess kept losing every time he took this exam, said Kiba bluntly as he snorted in mirth, just like you will, dead last. Shino shook his head slightly while Hinata scowled at Kiba, the Inuyasaka's actions today were deplorable, they were making the team and Kurenai-sensei look bad. I beg to differ, Kiba, said Sasuke turning to face Kiba, he was thoroughly annoyed with the Inuyasaka's attitude already, if any of our teams are most likely to win, then it's definitely ours. Ah, have confidence in yourself, Uchiha-san. Posed Kabuto genuinely smiling, Sasuke turned to look at Kabuto, it is no surprise, you are from a powerful and respected bloodline. I've heard rumors in our village that you've already awakened your Sharingan, I must say, that is quite extraordinary at such a young age. Sasuke eyed him suspiciously, there was something about that comment. It's like this guy is purposely trying to remind me that Itachi is better, thought Sasuke, and Hess full of flattery. I have confidence in my team, said Sasuke with a hint of pride, I can't wait to show the proctors exactly what we can do. Kabuto's smile widened slightly at that statement, Sakura and Naruto couldn't help but smile at those words of encouragement. Yes, well I may have something that can help you fresh out of the academy greenhorns, said Kabuto pulling out a pack of cards, I have here an encyclopedia of information on our fellow contestants, and some information concerning their native lands, I'd be happy to share any knowledge on the other contestants with you all, it'll help to give you an edge on the competition. How did you come by this information? asked Sasuke, raising an eyebrow. Shinobi mission reports, skills, and even bloodlines are considered carefully guarded village secrets. They are only released onto bingo books if the shinobi has defected from the shinobi village they lived in. Very correct, Uchiha-san, said Kabuto enthusiastically. As you can see, this is valuable information, and it can help anyone who would like to learn more about the other teams. Hinata looked at Kabuto suspiciously upon hearing those words. Sasuke noticed that Kabuto hadn't answered his question at all. Naruto became afraid of anyone asking about him. Kiba grinned as an idea formed in his mind. Alright, Uzumaki. Hinata elbowed Kiba before he could finish that sentence. Oh. Team Uzumaki, added Sakura hastily. She hoped that Kabuto wouldn't bring out Naruto's card for what could potentially be in there. That's what Kiba-san meant. Ino looked suspiciously between Sakura and Naruto. She began drawing her own conclusions. It would explain why Sakura hadn't taken the bait when Ino's arms were around Sasuke. Her teammates just stood silently listening on. Chaoji was more concerned for his potato chips, and Shikamaru was too busy being a fake emo. Okay, Kabuto hid his genuine surprise after realizing the Uchiha and pink-haired girl knew about the Kyuubi Jinchurika's secret. Let's see here. Here are all 3 cards concerning Team Uzumaki. I must say, smart thinking and trying to discover their abilities, the clan head and fire daimyo have been rather boastful about how successful they will be in today's exams. The clan head, Uzumaki Kushina, has personally trained them. The squad leader is being groomed to be the next heir of the Uzumaki clan, has arranged to marry the daughter of the clan head so they can return to the old system of rule with a male leader. Why does it have to be a male leader? Asked Sakura, furrowing her brows. If their current leader is a female, then why do they want to return to the old way of doing things? Well, it's important to their traditions, answered Kabuto, shrugging. The Uzumaki clan wants to return to as much traditional clan values as possible. It's important to their people. Some of the more barbaric laws will never be passed, but the Uzumaki people seem to desire a return to normalcy regarding how a clan should function. It's actually possible to accomplish that goal under the specialized Konohagakure laws that give unique privileges to prominent bloodline clans. It's not violating the laws of Konohagakure no Seido to have stipulations like male clan leaders, arranged marriages, and other social constraints that only affect their own families. Well, people without bloodlines feel it's old and should be rid of. Prominent bloodline clans with wealth and power feel their family traditions are being violated if those laws are questioned. But they're wrong. Snarled Kiba. Hinata fixed Kiba with an angry stare. She did not appreciate her family's olden traditions being insulted so snidely. Who made those stupid laws anyway? The Shadame enacted them to show courtesy to the Uchiha and Hyuga, said Kabuto sternly at Kiba, out of everlasting respect and a form of permanent friendship when Konoha was first built. To speak so crudely of those laws is an insult to the very foundations of Konoha. Kiba shut his mouth after that. He didn't have a brazen reply to counter that significant historic fact. Hinata and Sasuke were both scowling at him, since he had insulted both of them rather foolishly. Oh yes, about the team, began Kabuto, looking down at the cards he had picked out. Team Uzumaki, consisting of Uzumaki Yakumo, Uzumaki Ranmaru, and their squad leader Uzumaki Idate. 3 pictures were shown on cards. The first was of a girl with long chestnut hair, a loose silky purple kimono with flowers all over it, and standard shinobi leg wear. The second was of a boy with short purple hair, a dark purplish kimono with dark blue Uzumaki swirls all over it, and standard shinobi leg wear. The last was a black-haired boy with ruggish hair with a bottom tied to a ponytail. He had a white kimono covered with a black battle-armored vest, a katana sheathed on his left side, and standard shinobi leg wear. These body shot photos all seemed to be taken from the same place and look different than typical shinobi photos, such as those for Genin. The girl was Yakumo, the purple-haired boy was Ranmaru, and the black-haired leader was Idate. It seems the Uzumaki clan took these pictures themselves, muttered Kabuto, reflexively fixing his glasses. They're known to have completed 30 C-rank missions and 42 B-rank missions, all under supervision of their instructors, but it's still a rather impressive feat. For most C-rank missions they were under the Jounin Uzumaki Akahashi, and for B-rank missions they were under the clan head. I must say, they've definitely been groomed for success. If half of all the boasting is true, it seems almost certain that they'll annihilate the competition. B-rank missions, shouted Kiba incredulously as his eyes widened. Everyone else had the same looks of shock. Those were Chunin and Jounin level missions. Genin weren't supposed to take such missions. Yes, unfortunately it seems their bloodlines have been carefully guarded, but it's been speculated that these 3 have either bone or steel bloodlines due to their commonality within the clan. Wait, Team Uzumaki? Questioned Ino, fixating Naruto with a stare. Naruto, I thought you were an orphan. I was kicked out of my clan years ago, Ino, said Naruto, refusing to elaborate any further. Before anybody else could comment, Naruto quickly tried to change subjects. Kabuto-san, do you know of any other participants who seem just as dangerous in this exam? What's wrong dead last, baited a sneering Kiba, trying to avoid the fact you suck so much that your clan threw you out. The temperature around the group seemed to drop, everyone went silent at that point and glanced between Kiba and Naruto. Kabuto surreptitiously watched the interaction of the 12-year-olds in front of him, seeing how Sasuke reacted to this would only better his mission in manipulating Team 7 for their trust, however. Kabuto admitted that even he felt it was necessary for the stupid dog to shut up. Kiba was indirectly interfering with Kabuto's goals. Naruto's fists balled in rage yet again, everyone could see it now. Sasuke and Sakura looked ready to yell at Kiba. Sasuke-san, interrupted Hinata before the situation could get volatile. It broke Sasuke out of his reverie temporarily. Naruto-san, could you both come with me for a moment? I'd like to discuss something with you both for a moment, you too, Shikamaru-san. Naruto and Sasuke looked at each other before following where Hinata motioned them to go. Shikamaru sighed in exasperation, but one look from Ino made him follow along with Naruto and Sasuke. Kiba followed too and ignored the harsh glare from Hinata. So what's this about me? Accused Kiba annoyed. He anticipated that they would talk about him, and why the hell are you talking about me with these three? Shikamaru and Naruto both let out exasperated sighs of frustration. Sasuke scowled at Kiba and looked ready to fight him. Hinata gave him another glare before turning to the other three. It's about Yakushi-san, began Hinata before being interrupted by Kiba. Who? Asked Kiba confused at the direction the conversation was going. That your boyfriend? It's the veteran genin who introduced himself to us, you idiot, said Shikamaru fed up with Kiba's attitude. Ugh, this is why I don't like talking to people, you're all troublesome and stupid, just look at all the drama that you caused. Me? Why you? Shikamaru's hands flew up in the air as he turned to go back to his teammates and the others of the group. He didn't care to be near any of these people. No, you know what? Said Shikamaru pissed off. Fuck this and fuck you all. I knew telling the truth would get me nowhere with you, Kiba, you're a dipshit, and if you don't realize how obvious you are about wanting to get into Hinata's pants, then you're an even bigger dipshit than I first realized. Stop thinking with your dick and start using your brain, if you have one. Shikamaru stalked off as Kiba glared at his retreating figure. Hinata sighed in frustration. Kiba-san, leave, she whispered harshly. Kiba turned around to look at her and began to open his mouth. Leave. Kiba looked startled by that and turned around to go back to where Shino was. Finally, it was just Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata. Hinata turned to face them and was silent for several moments to gather her thoughts. Anyway, this is a serious matter, began Hinata peering at both of them. Yakushi-san is a suspicious character that we mustn't trust. I do not know how he acquired that information, but it's dangerous for someone to be able to gain access to full-blown records, such as mission statistics and potential bloodline secrets. He has both of us on file, said Sasuke, catching on quickly, realizing the alarming danger of what that man was capable of. He could give our secrets out to any hidden village interested in our bloodlines. They are both from prominent clans, so the bloodlines aren't too much of a big deal, said Naruto, attempting to distract himself from what Kiba told him, but individual statistics on your strengths and weaknesses and who you commonly associate with. You both should know that he's completely lying about being a genin. He has as much chakra as a jounin. Sasuke looked more alarmed at that information. He made sure not to turn his gaze where Kabuto was. Hinata wasn't fazed by the information because she had briefly activated her Byakugan to check his chakra under suspicion that he was lying. She had picked up on the man's body language when Sasuke had asked the question about where he got the info cards and deduced that Kabuto was hiding something. Hinata sensed there was something wrong that she didn't entirely understand yet, a genin who was jounin level and had secret military information in card form. It was frightening to think about. Naruto-san, I didn't bring you here to participate in this discussion, said Hinata, looking over at where the rest of the graduating group was to find looks of suspicion. She turned to look Naruto in the eyes. I wish to apologize on behalf of my teammate for his belligerent behavior and disgraceful comments. He has been acting up in his excitement for the exams as of late. He attacked you specifically because you are the dead last of our graduating class. That is why he didn't insult anybody else. Unlike Uchiha-san and the rest, he feels that you are inferior to him. Naruto, you should have argued back, added Sasuke gently. If it had been me, I would have hit him, especially that part about family, which was completely uncalled for. Arguing back never solves anything, Sasuke replied. Naruto, he sighed quietly. Hinata-san, I'm sorry, but I don't accept that apology. You shouldn't be apologizing, he should be for what he said. It's not your fault that he's acting like that. Hinata shook her head at Naruto and smiled sympathetically. Naruto walked back to where the others were. Ino gazed at Sasuke and Hinata suspiciously, inferring even more conclusions. I just got some info on that green guy's team, said Sakura to Naruto as he stood nearby her. I got curious enough to ask about the Suna team that we saw bullying Konohamaru. It turns out the team consists of the Kazukage's own children. Naruto's eyes widened in mild surprise at that piece of information. Sakura informed him further on both teams. It seems both would be strong contenders in this exam. The sister was 15 years old. Naruto was glad that she didn't act like Sasuke's typical fangirls, because a 15-year-old showing interest to a 12-year-old like that was just weird. Is there any other teams we should be aware of? Asked Sakura. Kabuto took out more cards from the deck but didn't put chakra to reveal them. There is this one team from the village of Sound, began Kabuto mulling over the information, but well, they're a new village and only have one team participating in these exams, so they're not expected to do well. Well. Naruto was cut off as Kabuto was suddenly attacked by 3 people. He seemed to dodge the attacks, but then his glasses cracked. Naruto and the others had jumped as a result of the attack. His eyebrows shot upward in confusion, as it had seemed Kabuto successfully dodged the attack of the main offender. This brought on commotion from everybody in the room because of the wanton attack. Nobody gets away with speaking ill of our village. Said the one in bandages, we of Sound shall showcase our might in this exam. What an idiot, thought Naruto speculatively, has shown us his attack, even if we don't know what it is, we know what to watch out for. Everybody quiet. Hollered a voice, a Togeker team, pull a stunt like that again, and you will be disqualified. Am I clear? After the presumed leader of the Sound group gave his apologies, the proctor introduced himself as Marino Ibiki and ordered everyone to get into assigned seats. As the other proctors shunshined into the room, the rules of the test were thoroughly explained and everybody was ordered to begin. Naruto stayed calm despite his initial nervousness about the paper exam. He had never been good at paper tests. It wasn't until Iruka that he had started doing well in them. His previous years before Iruka-sensei had been difficult. He barely managed to succeed in moving up a grade every year. He had sought out extracurricular help, but the teachers either laughed him off or had him doing questions that he never understood. It had always made him feel inferior, because the senseis in the past seemed to ignore his pleas. It wasn't until later that he understood that they never wanted to help him in the first place because of their biases. He had learned more on his own and through girl who became his girlfriend than in the academy. Naruto still wondered who the mysterious person who gave him jutsu scrolls was. He had learned cage bunshin and water techniques through some mysterious benefactor who left scrolls on his doorstep outside his apartment during his birthdays. He was never able to pick up on the chakra signature because the scrolls were summoned outside his apartment. He often wondered over the possibility it was his mother. Naruto sensed that Hinata had already recognized the true purpose of the test and activated her Byakugan. He sighed inwardly, wishing he had a free and easy cheating method like a Taijutsu. His mother's Taijutsu would have been perfect for this situation. He knew Sasuke was smart enough to figure out the true purpose of the test and use his Sharingan. Sakura would be smart enough to do most, if not all, of the questions on her own. Naruto decided to read the questions and see which ones he could answer. He blinked and reread them again because he was sure that he was mistaken. He subtlety attempted to kai the Jinjutsu from the test because of the difficulty of the questions. Finally, he slumped back and stared at the test speechless. They're all questions that the senseis before Iruka made me do when I asked for extracurricular help, he thought as he reached an epiphany. There isn't a Jinjutsu on this exam, they were setting me up for failure. I was robbed of a fair chance to learn. Naruto tried to bottle the overwhelming anger that he felt. He shouldered hate was bad. Hate brought about horrible tragedies like the deaths of those villagers when the Kyuubi had awakened from inside him. Being angry at Kakashi for being tardy for example was one thing, but the desire to kill shouldn't be allowed. He didn't need to give people more of a reason to shun him. Naruto took calming deep breaths as he attempted to rein in his newfound anger. He felt a headache begin to build. He calmly wrote down the answers. This test was a breeze for him because he had been forced to work on these questions at an early age. Once he was finished, he slouched in his seat and mulled over what he had just learned. He couldn't get it out of his mind how often had he worked diligently to improve himself. How many hours had he wasted on extracurricular test taking in the academy. Even now, he bet that the Chunin proctors in this exam would take points off of him for simply breathing. Where did this leave him later on in his life? Would he be barred from pursuing a career in field because he was the demon fox? Naruto realized that the will of fire itself called for his death. He couldn't truly believe in Konoha's religion anymore if he considered it at face value. The ideals that he wanted to live by entailed consequences that directly harmed him. Normal people could ignore those unmentionable ideas because it didn't affect them. For him, that was not the case. God literally hated him according to ancient scripture. He had made sure to study it thoroughly at the Uchiha compound and was disgusted that his beliefs were so muddled by falsehoods. Then again, how many people actually fully read the religious books they claimed to live by? The proctor, Marino Ibiki, called for the end of the examination and proposed a 10th question to the genin. What? That's impossible. Shouted the blonde Sand Kunoichi with a fan. How could you permanently stop people from other villages from becoming Chunin? That makes no sense. We've gained the signed permission of all village leaders of shinobi participating today to have this rule enacted, explained Ibiki. If you have qualms with this stipulation, then take it up with your cage. This rule was agreed upon during the deliberation of how the Chunin exams would take place. The blonde stared at him gobsmacked at that answer, everyone else was just as surprised. After several more minutes, shinobi teams continued to leave. Naruto sat passively waiting for the proctor to finish this portion. He wasn't about to quit now and disappoint his teammates. He had just taken the test, and he felt ready to meet the final question. If those other teams were too afraid to try answering a simple question, regardless of what was at stake, then tough shit for them. Besides, it was less competition to deal with for the rest of the exam. After what felt like an eternity of waiting, over half the people left. Finally, when it seemed like no more would leave, Ibiki congratulated them and explained the final question. Naruto couldn't help but snort and laugh at the irony. Naruto sat by the tree outside the forest of death. He had the permission slip already signed in his hand. He was well aware of the risks of death and felt they were worth undertaking. It was normal for the life of a shinobi. He looked up to see the Hyuga era standing a few feet away. Naruto cocked his head in a questioning pose to ask what she wanted. She tossed him a small object. He caught it in his free hand. Payment for the jutsu that you shared, explained Hinata in a clipped tone. I dislike the feeling of being indebted to someone, so consider this a one-time occurrence, understood? Whatever, said Naruto, shrugging his shoulders. He busied himself by rereading his potential death certificate for no particular reason. He needed a distraction. Hinata scowled and walked away. That interaction had infuriated her. After she left, Ino came up to Naruto and folded her arms. She scowled down at him. Naruto gazed up at Ino. Can I help you, Ino?" asked Naruto in confusion. "Are you?" She didn't really know how to finish. "Are you dating Sakura?" "No," answered Naruto, slightly confused. "Why are you asking?" "No particular reason," replied Ino evasively. She turned to leave. "Well, good luck in the forest." "You too." Naruto looked back at his paper. He sensed yet another chakra signature coming his way. "Hello Naruto-kun," said Haku, reading over the death waiver. "Sort of, I'm really just worried how it'll measure up against all these people," said Naruto, sharing his concerns. "They all seem really strong, and most are full of bloodline abilities. The red hair from Suna is a Jinchuriki like me too." Heiku's eyes widened in surprise at that. He made a mental note to inform the Hokage once his current job was done. "Are you here as one of the proctors?" asked Naruto, guessing why he was here. Haku chuckled at how accurate he was. "Yes, I've become stuck with the dirty job of having to find corpses and remove them during the latter half of the exam," explained Haku with a hint of annoyance. He didn't like seeing death if he could avoid it. "He'll be coming in with an assigned partner a few days after you." "Have they told you who your partner will be?" asked Naruto, curious. "They should at least give you a heads up before making you stay in there with someone else for a few days. Don't tell me it's the crazy purple-haired lady." "No," said Haku, chuckling. He had a run-in with Anko already. It's a jounin." Naruto raised his eyebrow at that. Haku sighed as he realized how stupid that answer was. Of course it would be a jounin. "I've been assigned with Uzumaki Karen." Naruto gave him a blank stare in response. Inwardly, the gears were turning in his head. This was not a fluke. The council had assigned Karen for a specific purpose in mind. Having experienced jounin instructors work with newly instated foreign shinobi was not unusual. However, they were carefully handpicked. Usually the shinobi assigned could counteract whatever jutsus the foreign shinobi they were assigned with had. However, in cases such as a valuable bloodline, the highest bidding clan got to bribe the council into putting someone they approved of to interact with the shinobi so that they could convince them to join their clan. The Uzumaki clan had been quick to set their sights on Haku. Team 7 were at their assigned gate. The heaven scroll was neatly tucked onto Naruto's person. Sasuke had insisted that Naruto be the one to hold onto it for practical reasons. Naruto's sheer amount of cage bunchins meant he was the best suited for holding onto the heaven scroll. Naruto didn't try to argue that point when Sakura had backed Sasuke up by adding that Naruto had the most stamina. The gate lifted up. Team 7 charged into the forest. They began the plan they had worked on in preparation of entering the forest. "Haju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," said Naruto. "Henge." Hundreds of Narutos appeared, and 2 of 3 of them changed into either Sasuke or Sakura. They proceeded to flee into the forest in groups. Naruto would gain all the knowledge from the fights his clones would have. His clones would be able to detect other people's chakra, while it would be impossible for other teams, such as one with a Hyuga, to find his real team. "We just got a scroll from some rain nin," said Naruto, informing them of the success, "but it's a heaven scroll, so." He stopped suddenly on a branch, and his team stopped too out of surprise. Sakura had nearly fallen off, and she glared at Naruto demanding an explanation. "A huge chakra signature is coming from behind us." Sasuke activated his Sharingan as Sakura gasped in surprise. They all swiftly turned around and felt an extraordinarily powerful gust of wind hit them. If they hadn't trained so well in chakra control, then they would have been blown clean off the tree branches. Naruto began forming seals as Sakura and Sasuke were barely holding on. The branch they were on looked ready to snap. Naruto's hands flew through the hand seals necessary and channeled a large amount of chakra. Gyuden. To Topakai, yelled Naruto. The wind quickly reversed in its direction. The three gasped from being short of breath because of the ridiculously strong attack. It's that weird Kusa Kenwaichi. She's the one attacking us. I don't know how, but she was able to mask her chakra. It's its cage level. He said it in disbelief. How could a cage level shinobi be participating in an exam for Chunins? What? Screeched Sakura horrified. What do you mean cage level? That's right, said Sasuke with his Sharingan blazing. I can just barely make out the chakra signature. It's getting closer at an insane pace. This crazy bitch is fucking cage level. We have to run. What the hell is a cage level shinobi doing in the Chunin selection exams? Thought Naruto as his panicked mind was swarming with hundreds of thoughts at once. Is this some assassination attempt on me or Sasuke? They prepared to make a break for it. Suddenly a giant snake erupted from the earth below and lunged at Naruto. In his state of shock, he did nothing as the snake swallowed him whole. All went black. The high-pitched scream could be heard in the distance. Naruto awoke later to find himself within the damn snake that had swallowed him. He was disgusted to find that he was within the snake's digestive system. He realized that after he had lost consciousness his cage buncheons had all puffed out of existence. He had gained all the memories of their short travels through the forest of death. Fortunately, cage buncheon was only considered kenjutsu because most people lack the stamina to create more than one clone. There were no memory pains from acquiring all the information that cage buncheons transmitted back to the user. He snapped into attention. His friends were probably fighting that insanely powerful Kusanin right now or very likely dead. He couldn't afford to waste time right now. He needed to find them as quickly as possible. He began channeling chakra as he flew through the hand seals. Pain. Ryuken no Jutsu. Shouted Naruto performing the jutsu that Sasuke taught him. He breathed in and blew out a strong wave of fire. Outside the snake, sleeping happily within a treetop, suddenly shot up and screeched in pain. Flames burst straight out of its own body. A draconic fire roared as it flew into the sky. Naruto walked out sedately with his mouth still fueling the fire as the dragon swung back behind him and plummeted into the carcass of the snake. He didn't even bother turning around as a huge explosion of fire erupted behind him. His eyes remained fixed forward as the fire from his mouth finally died out. He breathed in and out to get oxygen back in his lungs. He had to perform that carefully. The fire was the most dangerous when it was closest to the user, and Naruto had to maneuver it in a way that it moved away from him after it burst out of the snake. He made sure to use the remaining fire to effectively kill the snake. He shined away seamlessly. He had perfected the art of shunshin to a degree in which he mastered the jutsu without needing seals. His intent was to get to his friends as fast as humanly possible. Their lives literally depended on it. I must say that I am quite impressed, said the Kusanin gazing at them intently, to have fought so well. Orochimaru was absolutely pleased. Kabuto's information had been accurate as always. After he had taken the blonde out of the equation and made it appear that the boy had died, the two had fought their hardest against him. Initially, they had been terrified, but Sasuke swore revenge, and the pink one seemed to gain courage too because of his words. Sasuke's Sharingan gained a Tomo during the ensuing fight. It was now an even 2 in each eye. The two members of Team 7 had fought tooth and nail. The two were now exhausted on a random tree branch. Orochimaru had them both cornered. His summoned snake and jutsu repertoire had been more than a match for two genin. However, they had obviously been diligent in their training. They seemed to have a thirst for jutsu that rivaled Orochimaru's own. Yes, he was completely satisfied with Sasuke's performance. If the pink one had a bloodline, then he would put a curse seal on her as well. The snake appeared to lunge toward the two. Orochimaru simply planned to hop off and perform the jutsu necessary to give Sasuke the cursed seal. Suddenly, a fast-moving object from above struck the snake viciously. The snake reared back in pain and flicked the offending object off of itself. Naruto backflipped and landed in front of his team. Two kunai could be seen embedded on the snake's nostrils. "Naruto!" shouted Sakura happily, "Thank God, you're alive." Sasuke looked utterly relieved too. Naruto smiled back at them briefly before focusing all his attention on the dangerous shinobi and summoned snake in front of him. He only used the Tora hand seal for his next jutsu. He had trained using this jutsu diligently. He made sure to surge extra chakra into it so the jutsu would be able to destroy the snake in front of him. Pain. Gakakyu no Jutsu. Orochimaru barely got out of the inferno that burned his snake to ashes. He had jumped high into another tree to view the damage. He stared in surprise before he realized that he was dealing with the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, and therefore the brat's chakra size was obviously much larger than the usual humans. He would deal with the boy's interference quickly and put the cursed seal upon Sasuke. Naruto made sure to burn every inch of the snake as well. Once he was finished, he began breathing harshly again. He had used a lot of chakra to get here as fast as he did, and he hadn't been able to rest at all. He hadn't even thought of a good strategy to prepare, because he felt so pressed for time. Barreling into a summoned snake with 2 kunai head first was what his plan had effectively amounted to. Orochimaru jumped down while Naruto was still taking a breather from having put too much chakra into that jutsu. Orochimaru swiftly punched Naruto in the stomach, causing Naruto to double over in pain, and used his tongue to immobilize Naruto. Naruto was completely disgusted by the tongue, but couldn't break out of the hold. Orochimaru lifted Naruto off the ground. He opened the jacket and lifted the boy's shirt from the bottom with his tongue to see the Shiki Fuin seal on Naruto's belly. He reared his hand back to perform the Gaju Fuin. This would effectively seal the boy's chakra and cut off the Kyuubi half. Naruto struggled, but it was ultimately futile. As Orochimaru was about to slam on the seal, Naruto's eyes opened wide and dark blue chakra flared from around his body. Orochimaru, in severe pain from the intensified heat, let his tongue slip off and backed away from Naruto out of shinobi instinct. Naruto looked at Orochimaru in confusion before turning to look behind him. Sasuke and Sakura gasped as they saw the silver dark purplish eyes of God. Uzumaki Naruto had reawakened the Rinnegan. The boy turned back to scrutinize Orochimaru. The dark blue chakra radiated around his body dangerously. It looked like dark blue fire was swarming all around the boy. Everyone in the vicinity could feel the powerful demonic chakra that Naruto's body was letting loose. Naruto's visage began to sneer at the Kusanin. "Are you really so fucking pathetic that you're picking on children?" "What?" replied a startled Orochimaru. The nerve of this boy. He stood up straight and brought his tongue back into his mouth. He smirked at the blonde despite this new development. "I just happen to be very capable." "Capable? Is that what you call it? Attacking Genin during an exam makes you capable?" barked the eerie voice of the Rinnegan user as he began chuckling. Sasuke and Sakura got the distinct impression that this wasn't Naruto. "Stop with the shitty act, you stupid fucked up pedophile. How dare you, brat?" snarled Orochimaru, getting angry at that comment. So what if this boy suddenly had the legendary eyes of God? The boy was asking for a severe beating. "He'll show you a pedophile." In his rage, Orochimaru didn't understand just what he had blurted out. The Rinnegan user laughed uproariously at that comment. When Orochimaru was close enough, he prepared for another Gaju Fuin that would effectively knock the brat out so he could give the cursed seal to Sasuke and leave. Gravity seemed to be against Orochimaru's wishes because he was suddenly pushed back and thrown off the tree. His body soared through the forest for a little while before he hit a large tree trunk with a thud. He let out an aggravated growl. The Rinnegan user turned to look back at the other 2 members of Team 7 once more. They stared back fear. The fiery chakra was oozing killing intent and danger on a level above Orochimaru's. "Get the fuck outta here," demanded the demonic voice of Naruto, "or else I won't guarantee your safety, get me?" Sasuke and Sakura looked frightened by that statement. They were already exhausted from fighting Orochimaru, and now this monster had taken control of Naruto. "Who are you?" whispered Sakura, afraid. She was not just afraid for her safety, but what was happening to Naruto. "What have you done to Naruto? Who the hell are you to demand anything?" shouted the Rinnegan user sharply. Sakura and Sasuke flinched in fear. "Now leave, you stupid weaklings. If you hurt him I swear," Sasuke began but was cut off. Yeah, whiny dipshit threats, get going you dumbass weakling." Sasuke scowled before picking Sakura up bride style and leaving. The demon with the Rinnegan snorted before returning his head forward. 6 years since I was last in control of this body, thought the monster as the demonic chakra flared wildly around him, at least sealing the bloodline worked out for the better. After Sasuke left, Orochimaru appeared and looked livid. Half the freak's face was falling off. "Brat, you have no idea who it is you're dealing with," hissed Orochimaru, ready to beat the shit out of the little fool. "You're lucky I have use of you, otherwise you would be dead within a heartbeat." "Really? Is that a threat?" "All I see is the bitching of a dumbass failure," replied the demonic Naruto cheekily. "Let's look back on your accomplishments, yeah? You became Sannin from getting bitch slapped by the legendary Hanzo. You managed to escape Konoha after the experimentations because your sensei pitied your pathetic ass, and your teammate was probably too chicken to deliver the finishing blow in this very forest. Everybody knows Jiraiya is stronger. You're not a snake, you're a cockroach. I assume you came here to give the Uchiha brat a hickey to further prove how much of a pedophile faggot you are. Seriously, as if having hidden laboratories full of experimented naked children had not been enough. They'll kill you," hollered Orochimaru enraged. "You're dead, you fucking brat." Orochimaru ran at full pace toward the genin. There was no way that the genin could outpace him if he used his full speed. The Rinnegan user sighed, shrugged, and shook his head. People just don't like the truth, eh? Orochimaru moved as rapidly as possible. The other half of his face fell off in his sprint. He aimed to kill in his enraged state of mind. "Debaku Tensei," muttered the demonic voice. Orochimaru was hoisted up into the air helplessly. Rocks, tree branches, and leaves started colliding with him. Holy fuck, you're absolutely pathetic. How the fuck do you fall for the same trick twice? I guess Anin is just another word for shithead. Wow, this is embarrassing. Why am I even wasting my time on a pathetic sack of crap like you? Teju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He channeled chakra without hand seals and summoned 30 Kage Bunshin. They launched themselves toward Orochimaru and were pulled in by the gravity. Orochimaru couldn't move at all because of the gravity immobilizing his body. Why you damn demon? Go fuck yourself, pedo freak, replied the Rinnegan user bored. He made the proper hand seal, Bunshin Daibakuha. Orochimaru's eyes widened as the 30 clones all shined brightly. They deactivated and caused a massive explosion that blew the tops of trees in the surrounding area clean off. The trees nearby became charred husks with very little remaining. The demonic Rinnegan Naruto had used a mixture of chakra propulsion and Shunshin no Jutsu to escape the blast. Sasuke had distanced himself as much as possible from the two horrifying monsters that were battling it out. He had reached the outskirts of the blasting zone a few minutes before the immense explosion happened. He laid Sakura on the grass and fell over himself. He breathed in and out harshly from all the strenuous activity that he had endured. "Get up Uchiha and stop being so fucking pathetic," spoke the voice brought a colder chill down his spine than the memories of Itachi. Sasuke turned to his left to see the demonic Naruto standing there. "I have a question for you, and I demand an answer, or else I will kill you right here." Sasuke sluggishly got up and faced the Rinnegan user. Sakura attempted to get up as well but fell over in pain. "Let go of Naruto, Kyuubi," snarled Sasuke angrily. The stress of everything that happened was getting to him. "If you don't, I swear I'll find a way to make you pay for using my friend as a puppet." "Oh? Intriguing," replied the demon showing mild interest. "Now then as for my question." Suddenly Orochimaru in his real appearance showed up. He had shed the Kusa-Kenwaichus body to regenerate from the attack that he had suffered. He stood a few yards away behind and slightly to the right of where Naruto was standing. There was an audible sigh from the Rinnegan user. "You goddamn demon brat," shouted Orochimaru infuriated. "The fucking dipshit didn't know when to quit. Prepare to die. I'll torture you in the worst ways that you could possibly imagine. They won't recognize the body when I'm through with you. I, Orochimaru of the Sannin, will fucking kill you." "Oh Orochimaru of the Sannin," shrieked a frightened Sakura. Sasuke's eyes widened in horrified fright too. The Rinnegan user muttered curses under his breath. Oh god, who will save us? We're doomed. We were no match for an S-rank criminal." Sakura was awash with horrified thoughts of what Orochimaru was planning to do to them. The disgusting human experiments he conducted for years were well documented and very well known. Orochimaru was the equivalent of the Buji man for almost all shinobi of Konoha. His accomplishments as a Sannin marked him as someone who rivaled the Hokage. "That's after my eyes," whispered a terrified Sasuke. Why else had Orochimaru specifically targeted him? Oh god, is he going to use me for one of his sick experiments? No. Pay attention and answer my fucking question," bellowed the Rinnegan Naruto, startling Sasuke and Sakura. "That shithead is irrelevant. You shouldn't fear crazy people. More often than not they're the biggest fucking cowards. You children actually fear this sorry excuse for a life form." The blonde emphasized his point by moving his left hand in the direction of Orochimaru. He didn't turn his full body around. "This Dumbus is so fucking cowardly that he waited until the Sandaime Hokage became senile before showing up in Konoha again," said the Rinnegan user as demonic chakra swirled around Naruto's body once more. "People fear this leech. What the fuck have you all come to? Next thing y'all tell me is children now fear the dark." Orochimaru snarled as he took out Kusanagi to prepare to eviscerate the impudent whelp to pieces. Naruto's left hand became more straightened as the palm was outstretched exactly where Orochimaru was. The Rinnegan user still hadn't bothered to turn around. Takrabakuhatsu. The tremendous blinding light erupted from his palm and scorched through the air straight into Orochimaru. It shot straight through the Sannin and kept going in the general direction of the surrounding forest. The gargantuan destructive light burned through miles of the forest of death in the direction it was projected. Sakura and Sasuke dived to the floor from the immense gust of wind that the attack had caused. When both woozily got up to their feet again they surveyed the destruction. A large crater traveled for miles away. It was farther than the eye could see. They could hear some of the roaring fire in the distance. Orochimaru was nowhere to be found. The scariest part was that this unbelievably destructive ninjutsu had not made a single sound. It far surpassed the Bunshin clone explosion from earlier by a long stretch. However, it had only caused a gust of wind to surge forth and the surviving forestation to be set on fire. As I was saying, my question for you Uchiha, Sasuke stared dumbly at the destruction before turning to face the powerful monster in front of him. If you had to choose between killing your brother or saving Naruto and Sakura, which would you pick? This is under the stipulation that you could never ever achieve the choice that you don't choose. Sasuke blinked as he seriously considered that question. Sakura sat on the ground tiredly not knowing what to say. Sasuke stared back at the Rinnegan user with his Sharingan blaring. I would save my friends, Sasuke answered honestly. I refuse to lose any more people in my life if I can help it. The Rinnegan user chuckled at that response. This tied together nicely. Sasuke gained an extra tomo in each Sharingan eye. That made 3 tomos in each eye. He was now fully capable of using all his Dojutsu abilities. It seems his resolve allowed him to unlock all his bloodline abilities, thought the demon. All that's left is the boy. Ayubi no Yoko, release Naruto from your grasp. Demanded Sasuke positing. Sasuke was forcing himself to keep his body upright. He doesn't deserve to have his body taken control over by a monster like you. And how do you intend to stop me from doing that? Proposed the demon snorting. It doesn't matter, this weak-ass body is already at its limit, I'd rather not accidentally kill the sissy. The dark blue fiery chakra dissipated, the Rinnegan eyes changed back to Naruto's normal blue ones, and Naruto fell backward unconscious. Sasuke's body sagged in relief before falling sideways unconscious. Sakura stared in misery at the mess before her. Sakura couldn't help being utterly terrified, their lives literally depended on her capabilities as a kunoichi now. Thanks for watching.